We can't. Chris says there's no other way to do it.
Yeah. Well, hello there. Howdy, everybody. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Great to have you. Happy Monday. I'm not yawning because I'm not excited about the show. I very much am excited about the show. What a sports weekend we had. Major League Baseball's postseason is great unless you're a New York Yankees fan, in which case it's very bad because they can't stop just doing everything wrong. But on the flip side, we had a spectacular story out of the Toronto Blue Jays yesterday. I'm going to tell you about that coming up in a little while. It is a story of, and this is not even being facetious or sarcastic, as I am ordinarily want to do. It's a phenomenal story about perseverance, sticking it out, fighting for what you want to happen. We're going to get to that later in the show. NASCAR was absolutely electric yesterday at the Roval in Charlotte, North Carolina. Joey Logano moving on. Ross Chastain having perchance, maybe, the worst weekend in all of sports. I think the only thing that had a worse weekend in sports had to be sky cams in the NFL. Had to be sky cams in the NFL. We had not one, but two balls deflect off of sky cams yesterday. One of which was a pivotal game-changing field goal that hit a sky cam wire, changed the trajectory of what was likely a made field goal. And another one, a pass deflected up in the air, coulda, shoulda, woulda, come down a certain way that players were playing. Instead, it hits the sky cam right in the lens.
And the drone people are so excited about this.
Oh, the drone people have got to be elated right now.
Because now it's like, hey, wouldn't happen to a drone.
We're right here. We're ready. I could have flipped the joystick right. That ball didn't touch anything, not once, but twice over the weekend. And on top of that, what an absolute wacko weekend in not NFL, not college, just football in general. An absolutely wacko weekend.
It was great to a degree. I mean, because everything that you thought, well, the majority of what you thought you knew, you didn't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I started the day
If you
yesterday.
said you wanted parity, you got some this weekend.
You absolutely did. I started it yesterday. I got a text at like 9:30 in the morning that said, asked if I was able to go on the Infinity Sports Network with Anthony Gallo at 12:30 to talk NFL picks yesterday. And as Rob Brown is a dude who wants every bit of airtime he can possibly get, I said, yeah, of course, absolutely. I'd be happy to do it. So Anthony Gallo, who I've been on with a few times on Sundays leading into the games, I jump on and he goes, hey, give me some picks that you like for the NFL. And so I did, gave him a handful that I liked. I gave him, I think, 6 or 7, 4 or 5 totals, a couple of sides, a couple of player props. And I was just like, I ended up, I think, of my picks on Sunday, I went like 4 of 6. And so after the day was over, when I got home last night, I texted Anthony and I texted his producer at the Infinity Sports Network. And I was like, guys, my picks sucked today. I'm sorry. That's on me. That's my bad. I hope you'll have me back. I understand if you don't. That's how bad I was. And I got a text back from both of them that was like, we collectively as a show, I guess they do like a pool of picks during the course of the day. He said collectively as a show, we went like 7 for 27 on our picks this weekend. It's not you. It was a wild weekend in the NFL. And so we're going to get to that. It is also obviously, well, actually Monday here on the show because our AP Top 25 is out. Ohio State, still number 1. They did give back another couple of first place votes, now down to 40. They went to the University of Miami, who after their first road test against the Noles, they improve to 5-0 and pick up those couple of votes from Ohio State. Those couple of votes that they picked up from Ohio State, good enough to move Miami from number 3 up to number 2. And they now have 21 first place votes. The other 5 belong to the Oregon Ducks, who drop a spot from 2 down to 3. Ole Miss hangs out at 4. Would you look at this? Mike Elko has the Colt as a top 5 team. Oklahoma down a spot, jumped by A&M to number 6. The Hoosiers of Indiana, led of course by Kurt Cignetti. If you don't know who Kurt Cignetti is, ladies and gentlemen, I have good news for you. You can grab your laptop, open up America's most popular website.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
And Google him. Indiana at number 7. Alabama now at number 8, up a pair of spots after their win. Texas Tech now up 2 spots to number 9. And Georgia, after the loss to Alabama a couple of weeks ago, back into the top 10, 2 spots up. Just about everybody moved up after this, with a couple of exceptions. LSU up a pair of spots to 11. Tennessee 2 jumps up to number 12, 3 spots up. Georgia Tech now a top 13 team, a spot ahead, of number 14 Missouri. Michigan is up 5 spots to 15. Notre Dame 5 to number 16. Illinois 5 spots up to number 17. BYU the same number to 18. Virginia now up to number 19, down 4 spots after their loss to Alabama. And if you wondered if Alabama is being taken seriously, Vandy, I'm not going to say got it handed to him by Alabama, because Vandy made it a good game until it wasn't.
I was going to say it was a good game for a while.
Yeah, it was a good game until it wasn't, but the respect is there. The Commodores at 5-1 dropped just 4 spots down to number 20. They are ahead of up 4 spots, number 21 Arizona State. Iowa State down 8 spots after their first loss on the season. Not just that it was a loss for Iowa State, but they took the L on the road to the Bearcats of Cincinnati. That drops them 8 down to number 22. Memphis at 6-0. Interesting pick here. Potentially the group of 5 representative. 6-0 Memphis, now at number 23. South Florida is unranked last week, up to number 24 this week. And now, with 2 losses to top 10 teams, the top 25 is rounded out with 3-2 Florida State. FSU, the highest ranked 2-loss team in America. There are 2 teams that you will note we did not mention in the top 25. 2 teams that started this season inside of the top 5. One of them inside the top 1. Texas and Penn State unranked after this weekend.
That's too bad.
I mean, the only 2 teams, by the way, to drop out of the top 5, Memphis and USF are in. They replaced Texas and Penn State. If you weren't paying attention over the course of the weekend, you may know that a week after Florida went and turned the ball over 5 times and lost to the LSU Tigers, that the University of Texas went on the road to go play the University of Florida down in Gainesville, a city which has produced one good thing and one good thing only. That is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Nothing else good out of Gainesville, Florida. And they got the dub. The Gators, not the Longhorns. I'm not saying it saved Billy Napier's job, but if Billy Napier doesn't lose his job, he's going to lean on this one. 29-21, Florida gets it done at the house. And you may have thought, well, that's got to be the worst loss that happened in college football this weekend. And James Franklin said, hold my Yingling, dog. Hang on just a minute, because the Nittany Lions hand the UCLA Bruins their first win of the year. 1-4 are the Bruins after they knock off James Franklin's Lions 42-37. My favorite part about this story.
Big game, James.
My favorite part about this story, it is very clear and very evident that James Franklin took the James can't win the big game criticisms very personally, because he said, well, I'll just go ahead and lose the small games too. You want to bang the drum that I can't win the big games? Hell, I won't win the small games now. Nico,
he showed everybody, didn't he?
I got to tell you.
So there.
I don't know, genuinely. I don't know what you do if you are Penn State now. I don't know what you do. And again, it's a spot where from this point forward, there is a well greater than 0% chance that Penn State goes 10-2 again. That Penn State gets in again. There's also a chance now because Ohio State on the road, still on the schedule. I got to tell you right now, if you can lose to UCLA, led of course by college football icon and legend Nico Iamaleava, if you can lose at UCLA, there's not a doubt in my mind this team could genuinely lose to Iowa on the road. If UCLA can beat them, Iowa can beat them. Ohio State obviously can beat them. Indiana's coming to Penn State. 3 days ago, I would have said, I adore, I am a huge fan of Kurt Cignetti.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
But I think Penn State's the better football team. Now all of a sudden, maybe not. Maybe Fernando Mendoza really is him. Can go into Penn State and get that win. There's a chance that Penn State ends up 8-4. And, like anybody else, when we start the college football season, we make a bunch of season-long predictions, projections, prognostications. And I got to say, I feel like I did pretty good this offseason, yeah? Like, I feel like I did pretty well. I called that the ACC was going to be better than anybody gave it credit for. We're a long ways off,
so
but they don't look bad.
We don't really know. I mean, the teams that we thought were really good, and I mean, Miami. Okay, that's one team.
I mean,
they're still like
no love for Georgia Tech. Oh, by the way, who I also told you was going to be really good. No love for Georgia Tech.
So they're top heavy with two teams.
Florida State's lost 2 games, both to top 5 teams.
Yeah, okay.
No good. No credit. No credit for that. Rolling everybody except with a top 5 win, by the way.
I don't know, dude. I'm just not sold yet.
I respect it. I'm not saying you're wrong for feeling that way. I'm saying I'm not wrong in the projection yet.
Okay.
A lot of football left.
All right.
You're not wrong for doubting it. I'm not wrong yet. Made that call. Made the Georgia Tech call. Made the Dante Moore at Oregon call. Made a lot of pretty good calls. There is one that I have to wear like an albatross right now. And that is when I said coming into this year, the conversation about the Penn State Nittany Lions feels different.
Yeah,
this year.
Didn't you pick them to win the Big Ten?
Sure did. Here's the thing. I do not feel bad about incorrect predictions, mainly because I got so damn many of them right. Mm-hmm. I got so many of them right. But good Lord, James, what are we doing? And listen, it's not that a team I expected to be good lost the game they shouldn't have lost. It is on the road at an 0-4 UCLA Bruins team that just fired their coach and had an offensive coordinator who had never called plays before. And if you haven't heard the audio yet, I'm going to play it for you a little bit later in the show. Rick Neuheisel's kid was on the call for the UCLA Bruins this weekend. And he admitted in his press conference that not once, but twice in the game as he was calling plays, because he's never done that before. He's always been a position coach talking directly to his players. Not once, but twice. He picked up his play sheet. He held it in front of his mouth so he can make the call as necessary. And he forgot to move the microphone down in front of his head that's on the headset. So he was just saying the calls to nobody. Quarterback couldn't hear him. Nico couldn't hear him. Said it happened a couple of times. And then there were a few more times that he remembered to move the headset down into its proper location, but then either forgot to push the button that lets him talk to the quarterback or was pushing the wrong button and was giving the plays to the defensive guys who were, and this is true, I watched the tape, not on the field at that moment in time. That's the offensive coordinator that James Franklin's defense being, by the way, being coordinated defensively by a defensive coordinator who they went and got from Ohio State, and BT Dubs are paying north of $3 million a year. They let 42 go on the board by an 0-4 football team with an offensive coordinator who didn't know how to work a headset and was calling phantom plays because Nico's on the field going, "Coach, I can't hear you. I don't know what you're saying, Coach." 42 from that team. 42 for James Franklin's Nittany Lions. 42 from an 0-4 team that had an offensive coordinator who was calling plays into the ether because he didn't know how the buttons worked or that he had to move the mic in front of his face. If I came in here and started doing a segment like this, you'd probably say that guy sucks at his job.
Well, I would just turn. I got a little bit. I could turn you. I mean,
That is what Neuheisel's kid did in this game.
Why you got to keep? I mean, how's that his dad's fault?
It's not his dad's fault. The point is, it doesn't matter who it is. Okay, fine. The offensive coordinator, doesn't matter who it is. I'm giving him, I give him credit because I watched Rick Neuheisel on, the CBS football roundup. And, that dude was fitting to cry. Old Ricky Daddy was. Because, of course, his baby boy just went out there and hung 42 on Penn State. Oh, by the way, in his first game as a coordinator, because they fired everybody, and they're like, all right, I guess you got to do it this weekend.
Hey, new guy.
Good luck.
What's your name? Come here.
Yeah. Good luck calling plays against the number 3 team in the country this weekend. Enjoy. Let us know how that works out. And all he did was go hang 42 on him. I don't know what you do if you are the Penn State Nittany Lions. I don't know what you do because this was going to be the team. This was going to be it. We've got Drew Aller. We've got Katron Allen. We've got Nicholas Singleton. We've got all these dudes. Of all of the dudes we've had, these are the dudes. And these dudes went out there and let them hang 42. These dudes went out there and scored 37 on the road against the Big Ten's worst team. What are we doing? So if you're Penn State, what the hell do you do? James Franklin's spot. I did see this yesterday, and I have to tell you, it is rare that I laugh out loud to myself. Something's got to be absolutely hilarious for me to laugh out loud when I am by myself. But it happened last night because as I was perusing the internet, getting prepared for today's show, I came across article, column, blog, post, whatever, from a Nittany Lion writer. And the guy said, if you don't know, James Franklin's buyout, if they fired him, is $50 million for the season. If James Franklin quits and moves on, James Franklin would have to pay Penn State $2 million. Effectively, if James Franklin would have gotten an offer for a job he wanted to go take, he would owe Penn State $2 million. And so this writer was like, James Franklin ought to give the school $2 million to quit. I'm like, yeah, no, for sure. I could see a world in which James looks at Penn State and goes, you know what, guys? That one game was so bad. That's my fault. Instead of making you pay me $50 million and firing me, I'm going to give you $2 million and save you the trouble. Okay. Do some people think before they start pushing the buttons on the keypad? I got to assume no. But genuinely, what do you do in this spot if you are Penn State? I've got a head coach that gets us oh so close, but never over the finish line. Or do we look and we go, hey, winning a championship, getting to a national champion, just getting there is hard as hell, man. It's hard as hell. And yet, James Franklin was in the mix last year. He was in the hunt.
I mean, they were there.
He was a national semifinalist.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's a semifinalist. It's easy for you when you are the one team on the top of the mountain to look down and say everybody below me sucks.
Yeah, you're right. It is easy.
I know. But I could look and say there were only 4 teams that got to be called a national semifinalist last year, and he coached one of them. So on one hand, you got a guy who keeps getting you close. On the other hand, you got a guy that goes to UCLA, an 0-4 team, and takes that L in a season where, and oh, by the way, that's a week after you lost to the Ducks at the crib. You are living in a world where I don't know what you do if you're Penn State. National semifinalists last year. We got our best team coming back this year, if you believe that. And I did. Again, I'm wearing it. Best team coming back this year, I bought in. The conversation was different. Everybody at both SEC and ACC media days, when we were constructing our preseason top 25, everybody was like, I think this is it for James Franklin. Like, this is the year. This is the guy. This is the squad. This is the run. Okay. All right, we're going to talk a lot about the top 25 today because there's a lot of very interesting teams. This weekend kind of felt like it was the weekend where college football kind of began to settle into place, right? It kind of felt like this was the weekend where we started to see the teams that ate it fall off, and we started to see the teams that are the cream of the crop, make their way to the top because, the cream raises to the top, So we're going to talk about that. We got to get to the NFL. Not a great day to be Kyler Murray. Not a great day to be Kyler Murray. Not only did my man lose to the winless Tennessee Titans, but his center was hitting him in the face with a football, and everybody blamed him for it. Like, oof, that's rough. We'll get to the NFL was bananas yesterday. And also, by the way, straight up, the Seahawks throwbacks, it was so good to see those. They look so good. Back after this, Rob Lonzo, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. Let's get it. It's the Fan Upstate. Patrick Kane, good morning, fellas. Good to have you. We are going to talk about Rico Dowdle. We are going to talk about the fact that Arch Manning just isn't good at football and more. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. This kind of felt like it was the beginning of the parity in college football, of which there is a bit, starting to sort itself out to some degree. Ohio State looked more like the Ohio State that we have come to expect.
Got a little bit of a running game going, and Julian saying just quietly going out there and getting things done.
23 of 37, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. The Buckeyes look like the Buckeyes. Oklahoma did what they needed to do against Kent State, 44-0. Texas A&M dog walks Mississippi State as they should have. And again, it's not a bad MSU team. It's just that Texas A&M is a legitimate SEC team, 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. Penn State and Texas were the two weird ones. And as we all expected, DJ Lagway just outdueled Arch Manning, just like we all knew was going to happen at the beginning of the year.
If you didn't know, then you're not really good at football.
Yeah, I mean, if you said at the beginning of the year that Arch Manning was going to be a better quarterback than DJ Lagway, you don't know ball.
No one said
brother.
That, did they?
You don't know ball,
wow,
brother. That's just kind of what it is. That's rough. Arch 16 of 29, 263, a pair of tutties, a pair of picks. DJ Lagway 21 of 28, 298, 2 tutties, 1 pick. Florida's Jaden Ball went off 27 carries, 107 yards and a touchdown. Florida rushed for 159 yards. Texas rushed for 52 on the day. Like,
wait, 52?
52.
Only fit
compared to 159 they allowed.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not great, Bob, if you're a Texas guy. So between Texas and Penn State, like, you know, they kind of are what they are. I was dead ass wrong about the Penn State Nittany Lions. Everybody else was dead ass wrong about the Texas Longhorns. Remember coming into the year, again, to kind of pat myself on the back. Remember coming into the year when I said, everybody's in on Arch. I think it's fair to have questions. I think it is fair not to be willing.
You saying I, but we had questions.
I represents the show.
Wow.
Obviously.
Wow.
Because we have never disagreed on anything.
Okay. All right.
We said fair to have questions about Arch Manning. Questions about Arch Manning.
Normally I don't. I want my name on that one.
That's fair.
That's why I want it on that one.
I would too. Because when I was at SEC Media Days and Lonzo and I were doing the shows, we had a multitude of guests on this show. Big names on this show. Big names on this show who were saying, Rob, you're wrong about Arch Manning. He's absolutely that guy. I mean, come on. Why else would he be making tens of millions of dollars in NIL when he's got the Manning pedigree, when he's got Eli and Archie and Pepe and Coop and all these great football minds to lean on? There's no way that he won't be successful. Yet here we are. Alabama got it done against Vanderbilt. I got to tell you, I was all in on the hype. As I said last week, my heart was with the Commodores. I just think Alabama's a good football team. And I think if you didn't already, because again, Vanderbilt is a good football team, but if you didn't already, I think you've got to start coming around on Alabama. Now back inside the top 10, 30-14 winners over Vandy this weekend, and Ty Simpson is that guy, man. He's that guy. Everything that we said about Arch Manning is absolutely accurate about Ty Simpson, with the exception of he's not related to Pepe, Eli, Archie, and Cooper. Other than that, everything that we said about Arch Manning is true about Ty Simpson. This was, again, back at SEC Media Days, when the narrative that I set on our show was the Southeastern Conference is going to be dictated by the quarterbacks. I think at the end of the year, and even throughout week by week, the year itself, I think you are going to see the SEC pecking order kind of determined, kind of set by quarterbacks. Where here's Alabama, undefeated in the conference, 2-0, but undefeated in the conference, 4-1. Their only loss to me, was the loss that had them turn into this team. That loss on the road at Florida State. And I know a lot has been made of it, understandably so. But that loss to Florida State, I think, did something to Alabama. I think they rolled up there in week 1, looking at that game and going, FSU was 2-10 last year. This team's going to be hot garbage. Alabama rolled up into Tallahassee thinking, we're just going to roll the Crimson helmets out onto the football field and we're going to be fine. They took one on the chin to again, I think decent, I think pretty good Florida State team, just not a team that is a top 10 Florida State team. I think, like I said last week, I think 18, 15, that's probably around where they're going to end this year. I think if you're Clemson, and we're getting to that game here in the next segment, I think if you're Clemson, you got to feel a hell of a lot better about Florida State this weekend. Or excuse me, in 3 weeks, whatever it is, not this weekend. You got Boston College, then SMU, then FSU. I'll get there. Hang out. I think you got to start feeling a little bit better about that FSU game now, but I would also point out Florida State, despite the fact that they were down dramatically in the third quarter, found a way to make that game close late in the game. But they're still maybe a top 20 team, like maybe a top 20 team. And Miami got the win on the road. But that Florida State team beating Alabama, I think woke up a beast, man. I think it woke something up in the Crimson Tide. And of course, they had the motivation of proving that what happened last year was an anomaly, an exception to the rule. Texas Tech, now inside the top 10, 35-11 over H-Town, over Houston. This was supposed to be a Big 12 showdown. This was going to be Texas Tech genuinely getting threatened by a good Houston Cougars team. They had the win over Utah last week, but there were questions about the Utes, Yana. They had the win over Oregon State, but that team's terrible. And they beat Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Kent State. This was going to be the game that showed you can't just buy wins in college football. I don't think they did. I think they bought players and they put together a good football team. Called this shot last week. I think they roll Houston, 35-11 your final. Georgia got back to right. 35-14 your final in that one. What do you want? Georgia just physically dominated that football game. Credit to Kentucky because they just wouldn't go away, but Georgia dominated that football game. This feels like Notre Dame 28-7 over Boise State. Illinois 43-27 over Purdue. Virginia jumps up. They go get, despite 329 passing yards and a couple of tutties from Miller Moss, Virginia goes and gets it done against a 4-0 at the time Louisville team. This felt like the first week where college football kind of began to sort itself out. I was talking 2 weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago. I was having a conversation with a buddy of the show who's a little bit higher up in the college football talking head stratosphere. And we were going back and forth when the comments, we played them, it was last week. It was after the comments of the athletic conference commissioner when he said that we need to either modernize or do away with the preseason top 25. And we were kind of discussing those comments and what are we supposed to make of this? And is he right? And if he is right, what do we do about it? And this talking head said to me, the thing about this is, if you really go look at it, college football has a pretty good history of sorting itself out. He said, I get it. I get what you're saying, that at the end of the year, there are spots where you can say, okay, this team is only there because they started higher than that. This team only did this because they were here at the beginning of the year, yada, yada, yada. But if you go back and you look at the end of the year, college football's got a pretty good track history of sorting itself out. This felt like a weekend where college football started to sort itself out. It started to look like this was a year where the good teams are starting to prove that they are genuinely good teams, not teams who had a flash in the pan early, not teams who took advantage of other teams who weren't quite ready and developed yet. But the good teams are starting to move up. The bad teams are starting to disappear. And I think you can see that. We'll talk more a lot about the AP Top 25, the results of the college football weekend coming up shortly. When we come back, I've got two things I'd like to get to in an extended segment. The first is a text from Pack Fan Shoof. Anyway, from a Packer fan who wrote in. Or a Wolfpack fan, maybe? I don't know. Pack Fan Shuff. Let's go with that.
Let's go with Packers.
That's what I thought. It could be the NC State Wolfpack.
Are there any of those?
7 or 8 of them.
Okay. All right.
7 or 8 of them. I got to imagine.
I root for who you root for. It's just weird.
He said, I know it's ultimately the coach's responsibility, but when do we start talking about the paid players and firing quarterbacks? I'd like to respond to that. I would also like to talk, and we will do this not only in the next segment, but also at 8:40 when John Blau joins the show. Clemson went up to Chapel Hill and did exactly what they're supposed to do and put the absolute work on the North Carolina Tar Heels. So, on the old sliding scale of truth, which side is the needle closer to? The side that said, hey, Clemson just was underperforming and now they are where they're supposed to be, or the side that says Rob Brown was right and the Tar Heels are a bleeping joke? I'm going to say what I think the answer is next. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. I don't know that Arch is washed. I just don't think he's good. I don't think he's good. All right, stay right there, guys. Got to grab some sound. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. So I would like to address a text that we got on the Hub City Spartanburger text line at 844-326-3663. Your input is not just welcomed. It's not just encouraged. Nay, it is demanded. Pac fan Shoof, who has clarified two things. Number one, he is an NC State Wolfpack fan.
Congratulations.
He said, quote, I am one of the 7 Wolfpack fans in South Carolina. Love the show. Then he changed his name from SHUF to SHUUF to alert me that it is Shoof. Appreciate that. But he also wrote the text that says, and I quote, I know it's ultimately the coach's responsibility, but when do we start talking about the paid players and firing quarterbacks?
I'm glad he sent this text because I was thinking the whole time, can they fire Arch? It's no longer even collectives anymore. His sponsors, he can be fired, can he? I mean, we haven't heard of poor play leading to cancellation of NIL money.
We haven't heard about it. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but we haven't heard about it. You are correct. So I have a couple of responses. First off, I would ask the question, what do you mean by fired? Because just because you are getting NIL money does not mean that a coach can't bench your ass. So yes, if Steve Sarkisian has had enough of Arch Manning and said, you've lost 2, you have underperformed in the games we needed you the most, and so we're going to find out who's next.
Dude, you can't bench royalty. You can't do that.
I mean,
you can't tell the prince that he has to go sit down. You can't do that.
Last I checked, this is the United States of America, and we fought a war about 250 years ago to prove that we absolutely don't give a damn about royalty. So yeah, you can.
This is the crowned, next champion. This is the guy, the ballyhooed, the much celebrated guy.
He who was promised. Yeah, it's not working out. So the question is, would you move on? If the answer, scratch that. The answer to that should be yes. Should be yes. It should be that Steve Sarkisian could say, I don't care if you're Arch Manning. I don't care if you have $6, $7, $10, $12 million in NIL deals. At the end of the day, you're just not that guy. You're just not him.
Could the opposite be the case, though? If he wanted to bench him, but the boosters and the people who are paying him all this money, can they put pressure on the coach to say, no, you can't do that?
So the thought I would have here is,
you can't take our billboard down.
The thought that I would have here is there is a difference between boosters and those who sign NIL contracts, collectives, whatever.
I would say that that those lines cross a bunch.
Sure. You're a big Ohio State fan, right?
I don't know what my weight has to do with anything.
Okay. So you being a big Ohio State fan,
one more big and I'm contacting HR.
You being a highly spirited Ohio State fan, I would imagine that regardless of the money you put in where you put it, if your team with national championship aspirations, ranked preseason number 1, now finds yourself not just at 3-2, but no, they were number 1 to start the season because
no, the Texas was number 1.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about Ohio State, then you made it sound like
I'm putting your team in the
all
position
right,
Texas was in preseason to make a point.
Clarification for listeners, I knew the entire time what you were saying.
Yeah, of course, obviously. If your team started the year off as number 1, started the year off with national championship aspirations, started the year off with a quarterback who 90% of America said, this is that guy. And instead, 5 games in, you find yourself at 3-2. You find yourself in a position where, sure, you lost on the road to the number 2 team in the country, but your quarterback did not show up in that game. And you found yourself taking an L on the road to a middling conference opponent who had a head coach who had the shortest odds in America to be the next head coach fired, and a quarterback who was last time out threw 5 interceptions in a single game. If you had put $1 million into that team, what would be more important to you? That the quarterback who you put the money into, assuming you put it all into that place, the quarterback that you were paying NIL money to, and who was becoming progressively panned more and more by America. So when that dude who you gave your OHIONIL money to represent you is also being, let's not say mocked, but let's say is not gaining the national credibility that you were putting NIL money into the hopper for him to do. Would you care more that guy continued to get the start when he's underperforming, and the only time he's being discussed on the national outlets is when people are going, everybody except Rob and Lonzo were wrong about this guy, and he ain't him? Or would you rather, I don't know, put a quarterback in there who maybe wins you the game? I'm going to go number 2. I'm going to go it as the second option there. I'm going to say most of you are going to say, I'd make the change. And if my NIL money is sitting on the bench, but my football team is winning games, I'm in a better spot. That's my guess.
What if you don't have a better quarterback? What if that is your best?
If you don't have the future on the roster, in the transfer portal NIL world, especially when that guy that was him said, I'm not going to the NFL next year. Well, let me take that back. He didn't say that. Grandpappy Archie said it. And like a week later, when asked about those comments, Arch said, hey, man, I don't know where Grandpappy got that take because that's not necessarily true. But I would also say
it's probably true. Yeah.
I mean, it is true now.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe perhaps Archie knew the writing was on the wall, but
maybe he did.
We'll circle around to that. The point here is it's on Steve Sarkisian. Unless he has some sort of deal where the University of Texas says you are not to bench this kid even if we are 0-5, which I'm going to go ahead and say, I suspect most boosters and people who give money to NIL collectives or sign individual NIL contracts with a dude, like a national company, right? Like Dr. Pepper was invested with DJ Uiagalelei. Sure. I don't suspect that Dr. Pepper had a rooting interest in Clemson outside of, well, if Clemson stinks and tanks, our guy isn't going to be talked about on TV, and those commercials become progressively more irrelevant because if that guy's not a household name and then we run a Fansville commercial with DJ Uiagalelei in it, the casuals across America are going to go, who's that guy with the big chain trying to get me to drink Dr. Pepper? I don't know who that is. And now your money's wasted. But I think most money in the NIL world is coming from primarily companies who do have an interest close to the team. And so it would be on Steve Sarkisian, in my ever so humble opinion, it would be on Steve Sarkisian to say, Arch ain't the guy. We're not getting what we want. Guy's going to the bench. We're going to give a run to the next guy. Or if you don't have the next guy, then my question would become, why not? And now I have a question about the coach. Why not? Now, there is an answer to that. And the answer is, much like Bo Pribula, who left Penn State because Drew Aller said, I'm coming back. And Penn State made it obvious to Bo, you're not playing next year. And he went, well, if I can't play here, I'm going to go somewhere that I can. He's now down at Mizzou. That's a top 15 team in America at this point. So maybe if the conversation going into the year was Arch Manning is going to be here for a minute, you know, if you've got a 5-star recruit on the bench who goes, it's 2 more years until I play, maybe he does go somewhere else. Maybe he does go to a school like a Mizzou and say, I'll be the reason that this team is elevated. I don't know. The point is, there's a little bit more leniency and leeway with coaches now than there has been in years gone by. At the same time, it is on the coach and it is on the companies at the end of the year that signed an NIL deal. It is on the collectives at the end of the year who organized NIL deals for that quarterback to make the decision of, do I sign this guy to another year of NIL? It is on them to say, did I sign him to a 2-year contract up front? When Arch committed, did I sign him to a 3-year NIL contract and I'm legally obligated to pay that? Or did I sign him to a 1-year deal and at the end of the season, I've got to have somebody make a phone call that goes, Arch, we appreciate it, but we don't feel we got the return on investment we were looking for, so we are not going to renew our contract for next year. Everybody's got their own decisions to make. And this is why I said, I think the first 2 or 3 years of NIL are likely going to see a market value that starts real high, and then we start to see those numbers fade. We start to see NIL contracts start to come down. And the reason I think we start to see contracts come down is because at some point, schools are going to say, or collectives and companies are going to see there's probably a lot more DJ Uiagalelei and Arch Manning out there than there are Dante Moores, right? I would, just to kind of keep it on the local front. Let me ask the question right now. Does anybody think that, and again, had a great game against Kentucky, but is Lenora Sellers doing what we expected him to do this year? I would say no. And we can blame it on the offensive coordinator. We can blame it on the offensive line. We can blame it on Shane Bieber. We can blame it on Lenora Sellers. Blame what you want to blame. He's not putting up the numbers. He's not getting the attention you thought. So if you signed $1.5 million NIL deal with Lenora Sellers, granted, not the same because we're all relatively sure he is going to the league next year. But if you sign that deal with him, do you feel like you're getting your ROI? Probably not. So maybe it walks back next year. That's kind of the point I'm making. Then we go down to Ole Miss, and there's a cat by the name of Trinidad Chambliss, who's got Ole Miss, a win over LSU, now the number 4 team in the country. Trinidad Chambliss, and I said this on the show that I was on Saturday, and I say it respectfully, Trinidad Chambliss is a better Lenora Sellers than Lenora Sellers is right now. Like, that kid, I don't know what his NIL deals are as a transfer out of nowhere to Ole Miss, but I'd be willing to bet right now, if I was in NIL, if I was a team or an entity signing an NIL deal, Trinidad Chambliss is the guy I wish I would have given my money to at this point, but nobody knew who the hell that kid was when he started there. So because it is a gamble, and because there are, I would argue, probably more quarterbacks that are not living up to their NIL money. Is Cade Klubnik living up to his NIL money? Granted, he looked like a friggin' machine against North Carolina. Again, North Carolina's a joke, but he looked like a machine against North Carolina. But on the season, if you sign $1 million deal with Cade Klubnik, are you getting your money's worth? No. Like, the only discussion about Cade Klubnik is how maybe we got it wrong. Maybe this isn't the quarterback class we thought it was. I mean, Ty Simpson's trying to change that narrative. Dante Moore is trying to change that narrative. Trinidad Chambliss trying to change that narrative. But these are all guys who were not in that preseason discussion. So the answer to your question, Pack fan Shoof, is this. It is on the coach to make the decision that is best for their football team. And if Steve Sarkisian thinks that leaving Arch Manning in the starting lineup is what's best for him, that's on him. But like James Franklin, like Billy Napier, like Dabo Swinney, like Shane Beamer, at the end of the day, the results of the season are on you. That's on you. And so this is kind of one of those spots that you look and you go, if you want to stick with Arch, whether it's because he's got too much NIL and you don't want those NIL deals to go anywhere, the coach would have a vested interest in those NIL deals staying in place. Because at the end of the year, Steve Sarkisian could look at the next 5-star quarterback and go, hey, our last guy got X million dollars in NIL deal. You show up and you be that guy, you've got the possibility. But at the end of the year, Arch Manning gets all his deals canceled because he just wasn't that good, and those deals all go to the back seat. You can't brag about that anymore, right? You can't brag about it because now you're going ahead, but if you show up and you fail miserably, they'll leave you out in the cold. They have a reason to want those NIL deals in place. And so maybe there's a justification for Sarkisian going, I believe Arch will click, so I'm going to leave him in there. I don't know. But that's why guys like Steve Sarkisian get paid $11, $12, $13 million annually to make those decisions, because the results of their decisions are on them and their ability to keep a job as well. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know. We will spend a chunk of the next hour discussing Clemson's dominant win over North Carolina, as well as the rest of the results from the college football weekend. Then in hour 3, we'll get to some NFL. John Blau joins the show to talk Clemson. All that and more coming up after this. Not just quality, but well above average quality Sports Flash.
We aim for high mid here. The Carolina Panthers got win number 2 with a 27-24 defeat of the Miami Dolphins. Former Gamecock Rico Dowdle showed out, carrying 23 times for 206 yards and a touchdown and 3 grabs for 28 yards. Bryce Young completed 19 of 30 passes for 198 yards and a pair of touchdowns with 1 pick. Carolina is back home this week, hosting Dallas on Sunday. The AP Top 25 is out with some dramatic changes. Ohio State remains at number 1. Miami moves to 2 ahead of Oregon. Ole Miss stays at 4, while Texas A&M cracks the top 5 for the first time. Oklahoma is number 6. Indiana moves up to 7, ahead of Alabama, Texas Tech, and Georgia. Toronto Blue Jays are 1 win away from the ALCS after a 13-7 win over New York. Put them up 2-0 in the best-of-5 series. Toronto chased All-Star Max Fried after just 3 innings, recording 8 hits and 7 earned runs. Hour number 2 is up next.
Not like that. Brown Show back on your radio. It is the fan upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. Be a part of the radio program this AM. We would love to have you. The phone number. The phone number. Did you see the girl from North Carolina who had her answer to a question go viral? North Carolina is getting it absolutely handed to them by Clemson over the weekend. And while North Carolina is getting it handed to them by Clemson over the weekend, for some reason, ESPN decides now feels like a really good time to play clips from interviews we did about with North Carolina students about how this football season shaped up. It's like, oh yeah, let's rub some dirt on that wound.
North Carolina is known for, I mean, it's hard. It's not Duke, but it's hard to get in there.
It
right?
is. It is. But I've had some experience with them. North Carolina fans do care about football. They're a basketball school, but they care about football. So they were doing this interview. They were playing clips, and they brought on this young lady named Abby. And I'll see if I can find the clip of it. But they brought on this young lady named Abby. And I guess they had asked her about the loss to TCU. Remember, like, North Carolina looked absolutely fantastic out of the gate on that first drive. And then they turned around and TCU ran them out of the building. And so they were asking about this, and they got this young lady named Abby, and she gave a quote where she was like, "It was the most painful thing I have experienced at university, and I have failed a number of midterms." But what was great about it was she delivered it in such a radio announcer voice that immediately Instagram and Twitter were like, give this chick a microphone. Like, give this lady a microphone. She has absolutely got a voice. My favorite part about it was not just that this lady, who then went on Instagram, was like, I am a sports journalism major. Like, I am trying to get into this industry. And in what I think is a great moment, everybody on Twitter was like, absolutely, give this chick a mic. She's great. She had this, I can't do like her version of it, but it was the female version of like that classic sports announcer voice. You're like, damn, this chick's good. My favorite part about it was not just that social media ended up giving this young lady a massive boost to her career. My favorite part about it is when they decided to play that clip. North Carolina was Cade Klubnik completed 90% of his passes in the first half. Like, they were getting rocked by Clemson, and they just drop on the Tar Heel fans' heads. I'm sure there weren't many of them watching still at that point, but they drop on the Tar Heel heads just these clips, like clip after clip after clip of all these Carolina fans being like, yeah, we suck and I hate everything. Just the absolute crushing of the spirit in that moment was just chef's kiss. Nice job. All right. It was fun, is the point here.
All right. Okay. All right.
I enjoyed it as a bit of a, sadist when it comes to college football.
So what you believe is there was a producer there who was being extremely sarcastic and said, you know what?
Now's the time.
This is when we should play this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right.
You could have done that pregame, and it would have been a great way to hype the game, right? Like, Carolina fans with a chance to get right. North Carolina has an opportunity to take on the Clemson Tigers and to show the world, yes, takes us a little while to get out of the gate. Takes us a little while to get the Momo, but we're here and we're ready. And instead, old producer boy was like, no. Let's save that just in case. Because, hey, if North Carolina goes up some points and they go get Clemson, you can go. Look at the turnaround. The North Carolina fans, they were ready to roll. But they waited until North Carolina was getting it absolutely pushed in to go, now, let's make them feel worse about themselves now.
Then that producer opens his jacket and there's orange and a tiger ball.
I'm telling, I don't know, man. I don't know who it was, but they made a call that was intentionally to hurt feelings. And I'm not going to lie. I'm a bad person. I laughed my ass off. Hey, it's 7:05 in the morning. You've got less than 55 minutes until you have to get to the office and begin killing time until Monday Night Football. We're here to help. Lonzo and I. We are. We want to make your life better. We want to help you kill that time. 8 or so hours of it at the office today. Don't worry. We know how it works. You talk sports. We know that, however, if you're going to talk sports, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you need to know what's going on in the world of sports, don't worry. That's how we make your life better. By doing this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet on the Fan Upstate.
Tis Indy, the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and begin talking sports this morning with your coworkers, your manager, your supervisor, your boss, your janitor, your IT guy, whoever you spend the morning talking sports with. This is what you'll be talking about. Allow us to begin, as usual, with item number 1. The college football AP top 25 poll is out, ladies and gentlemen, and it felt like over the weekend this was a shake it out kind of weekend. This was a weekend where the college football world began to see itself sort itself out. And I think the AP poll this week much more reflective of the reality of the college football world in which we all currently reside. The Buckeyes of Ohio State maintain their stranglehold, baby, on the number 1 spot. 40 of the available 66 first place votes. Math is hard. That's why I'm a words guy. Go to the Ohio State Buckeyes. That is less than the 43 that they had last week. That is because a number of those were shuffled down to number 2. The Hurricanes of Miami, after a road win in Tallahassee, a mostly dominant until they started playing some soft defense, and Florida State put some late points up on the board. I'm not going to say worthless because it really did come down to a couple of onside kick opportunities for FSU, but it was still a lottery pick that they would figure it out. Miami goes on the road to FSU, takes a victory away from a top 25 Florida State team. That earns them a handful of first place votes and enough points to barely counts, leapfrog the Oregon Ducks. Miami now number 2 with 21 first place votes. The remaining 5 do go to the Ducks of Oregon, now at number 3. Miami now with 3 quality wins over, 3 quality wins, because I did forget South Florida was ranked at the time. 3 ranked wins for Miami moves them to number 2. The Oregon Ducks got the win over the Nittany Lions of Penn State last weekend. They were idle this week, so they dropped back down to number 3. Rounding out the top 5, 2 more SEC teams. Ole Miss at number 4, Texas A&M at number 5 as it stands right now. Another SEC team at number 6. That would be Oklahoma. OU falls behind the Aggies of A&M. Both of them are 5-0. Indiana is at number 7. Alabama at 4-1 after their win over, yes, it is true, top 25 Vanderbilt finds their way up to number 8. Texas Tech, the money machine, at number 9, 1 spot ahead of 4-1. Georgia up 2 spots to 11 is LSU, up 3 spots to number 12. The University of Tennessee, very SEC heavy inside the top 12. Georgia Tech moves up to number 13. That is 4 spots elevated. Mizzou, 5 spots elevated to number 14, 1 ahead of number 15. Michigan. Notre Dame is at number 16, up 5 spots at 3-2. The first 2-loss team, the highest ranked 2-loss team. There are 2 2-loss teams that are currently ranked. Illinois is number 17 at 5-1. BYU, after their win on Thursday night over West Virginia, goes to 5-0 and number 18 at number 5. Virginia is at number 19, up 5 spots. Vanderbilt falls just 4 spots with the road loss to Vanderbilt, a quality loss in the enhanced metrics. They are now down to number 20. Arizona State moves up 4 spots to number 21. Iowa State takes their first L on the year. They are 5-1 at number 22. Memphis, a group of 5 representative, or at least a candidate for the playoffs, at undefeated 6-0. Unranked last week, 23 this week. South Florida reemerges inside of the top 25. They are 4-1. Their only loss to the aforementioned number 2 Miami Hurricanes. Florida State, after a home loss to Miami, a quality loss if you'll have it, falls down 7 spots to number 25. Cincinnati is number 26. Big win for the Bearcats over the weekend. They handed Iowa State their 1 loss on the season. Texas and Penn State, 27 and 28. They opened the year inside the top 3. They closed this week unranked entirely and just barely ahead of Utah, Nebraska, USC, UNLV, North Texas, TCU, Mississippi State, Washington, Navy, Louisville, and Auburn, all just receiving votes outside of the top 25. Let's get to item number 2. Yesterday was a wild day around the National Football League. You had the Vikings in a European game in London, got by the Browns, closer game than they would have liked, 21-17. Carson Wentz, 25 of 34, 236, and a touchdown. The Colts B-slap the Raiders yesterday, 40-6, your final. Geno Smith intercepted twice. Ashton Janty, a good day, but comes back down to earth a week after going 123 and a touch, 67 yards on 14 carries. The Saints, Spencer Rattler, 1-10, Rat Daddy season, gets his first dub. They knock off the New York Giants 26-14, 5 turnovers for the New York Giants yesterday. Rat Daddy, 21 of 31, 225, and a touchdown. And that one, Raheed Shaheed, 4 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. The Cowboys, not that one team, just that one team. Can't say it. Just that one team, though.
Well, the first step towards multiple victories is winning one.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, said Confucius, and I believe it. Spencer Rat Daddy Rattler. Keep the Momo going, baby. We got this. 37-22, the Cowboys over the Jets yesterday. Justin Fields, 283 and 2 touchdowns through the air. The kid can ball a little bit. They just needed some help. Oh, and did not give Williams 16 carries for 135 yards and a touchdown. But like outside of that, pretty good day overall for Justin Fields. The Broncos hand the Eagles their first loss, 21-17. It looked like, by all accounts, when the Eagles were up 17-3, that ball game was over. But 18 unanswered points in the fourth quarter for Bo Nix yesterday. We are going to talk about that game later. Texans 44-10. They dominate. The Ravens are 1-4. Just like we all predicted, the Ravens are 1-4. Unbelievable. Of course, they had 97 players in the hospital yesterday. Doesn't matter. C.J. Stroud went off 244 and 4 touchdown passes. Look, this is going to be wild because I do think the Ravens will get Lamar back. They will get healthy, and they're going to go on a run down the stretch, but too little, too late at that point. The ambulance wins in that one, but it was a good showing for the Texans. If another team is banged up, take advantage, and they did.
I'm sure that hamstring is coming along good.
You think he would have sat out against the Texans for a fake injury? Against the Texans? I could give you he bounced up out of the game with the Chiefs, faking it. He's not sitting out against at the time,
I don't know.
1-3 Texans.
I don't know. You look and go, wow, everybody's out. I got to do everything myself. I think it's potentially. Haters, man. 22-21 the Titans. What the hell was that Titans-Cardinals game? I thought I was drunk as hell watching that game. I got Kyler Murray taking shotguns. You? No, I was not actually. Okay, all right. Yeah. It's a possibility. The
Saints won. I probably had an excuse to be. The Titans 22-21. I got Kyler Murray taking footballs to the face on bad snaps. I got a fumble and then a touchdown. Like my buddy Jonathan, who was a Titans fan, was texting me late in the afternoon, and he's like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I neither do the Cardinals. I don't know.
The center forgot who he was hiking the ball to.
That was unbelievable.
He thought he was hiking it to a normal-sized quarterback, and instead.
He wasn't paying attention, but also maybe that. 38-35 Bucks over the Seahawks. They are 4-1. Lions 37-24 over the Bengals. They are 4-1. The Bengals got to find a quarterback, dude. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I told a buddy of mine yesterday who said they got to find somebody besides Jake Brown. It doesn't matter. Behind that offensive line, you can put Tom Brady. It's not going to matter. 27-10, the Commanders dominate the Chargers. Just like that, the Chargers are 3-2, and now there are questions. But welcome back, the man, the myth, the legend, Jaden Daniels, 231 and a tutty on the day. And the Patriots go to Buffalo and knock off Josh Allen and the Bills last night. He loses a Josh Allen. Now he's just Josh Allen.
By the way, I watched first half last night, second half this morning, and Collinsworth kept calling him Josh. So
yeah, I caught that too.
That might have been part of it. And those uniforms, no.
Oh, no. I disagree on that. I thought they were fresh.
They deserved to lose. Imagine being a spotter, though.
Oh, no, it was listen, as a play-by-play guy, absolutely miserable when you have white and silver letters. Miserable, but I thought they were dope.
You know what they did last night? They threw up the white flag and they surrendered.
I mean, maybe so. We're going to talk about that later. But the game we got to get to, 27-24, Carolina gets win numero dos, now 2-3 on the road over the Miami Dolphins. Bryce Young, efficient. Again, like, we are waiting for the explosive big yardage game, but I've also told you a lot of times, that's not Bryce Young's game. 19 of 31, 98, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah, finally, the play caller went, you know what? Bryce Young ain't going to do it. We should probably run the ball. You know what? How about we give the ball to Rico? Maybe that's what we should do. Let's see if that works. And then it did. And then throwing lanes started to open up and some things started, and the defense started playing better, all because they decided to hand the ball off multiple times.
To get into this game in depth later, but I will go ahead and I don't think this is a spoiler alert, but Rico Dowdle.
It's not real.
23 carries, 206 yards, and a touchdown on the day, average 9 per carry. And oh, by the way, can we welcome Xavier Legette back? Was that the game he needed to get right? 2 grabs, 31 yards, but he scored on a 24-yarder. That was a beaut of a tutty catch.
Not easy catches.
No, it was not. Neither was the one down the sideline. You are right. I hope that's the get right game. I hope that erased the mental block. We'll find out. We're going to talk about this game in depth later, but the Panthers do get the win on the road, 27-24. I don't know if you saw the clip of Mike McDaniels walking to the locker room after the game.
I did.
Oh. He's going to be an offensive coordinator next year, and I'm going to go ahead and call the shot. Here's the shot. Mike McDaniels gets fired today. He's gone today, all right? Take that bet if you can find it. Mike McDaniels will be an offensive coordinator for an NFL team next year, and they will have the number 1 ranked offense in the NFL.
Ooh, will they hire Nick Saban?
No. And also,
so he could right that wrong where he left. Why not?
Because I think Nick Saban is perfectly happy on the game day set. They had hoodie on for the on the field interview, and Bill was like, I learned a lot from Nick Saban, and Nick Saban taught me a lot. And Nick Saban said, Bill, I never thought I'd say this, but you're full of. It was like, I love unhinged Nick Saban. I do. Couldn't stand him as a football coach. Couldn't stand him. Couldn't stand that he beat my ass and everybody else's for that long. Love game day Nick Saban next to Pat McAfee. It's the best. All right, let's get to item number 3. 2 games in the Major League Baseball postseason last night. 1 in the WNBA. WNBA game finals game number 2 also goes the way of the Aces. They are up 2-0, and I'm going to call it. I think they are sweeping the Phoenix Mercury. They are going back to Phoenix for game 3. This is a best of 7. Vegas up a pair. Part of that because Asia Wilson's a dog. 28 points, 14 rebounds in that one last night, accompanied with Jackie Young's 32 and 8 boards. The Vegas Aces are just too much for the Mercury. Satu Sabali had 22 points. Kalea Copper had 23, 10 for Alyssa Thomas out of Phoenix. But they ended up with 8 points off the bench last night, a bench that went 7 deep on the basketball court. They just don't have it to get by Las Vegas, so I think that's a sweep. Over to Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays dominate the Yankees yesterday, 13-7. The big story in this one, Max Fried, who was the best pitcher in baseball, not named Tarek Skubal this year. Did I say on the road at Miami? You're right. I am very sorry. It wasn't home. I've got a couple of games switched in my head. I'll explain that later. You are correct. My bad. Thanks for keeping me honest here. Max Fried, second best pitcher in the American League behind Tarek Skubal. 3 innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, all earned, struck out just 1, and was yanked after just 51 pitches. On the flip side, a young man by the name of Trey Savage got the pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays. A rook. He worked his way from the bottom of the Blue Jays organization all the way up to getting a start in the postseason last night for the Jays. Check out the stat line. 5.1, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts for Savage last night. The Jays had 5 dongs, including a Vladdy Guerrero Jr. granny in the 4th inning that broke it open. Over in the other AL game, Seattle leveled their series with Detroit at 1 apiece with a 3-2 win last night. Luis Castillo did not get credited for the win. 4.2, 1 hit, no runs, K 3. On the flip side, Tarek Skubal, good performance. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs allowed, K 9, but he did give up a pair of dongs to Jorge Polanco, who was the hero last night. Seattle draws level with Detroit in the best of 5 through 2. This series flips back to Detroit for the next one. There's your cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know when we come back. Let's talk about the 2 wins that mattered this weekend. We'll start with the get-right game of the Carolina Panthers against the Miami Dolphins at home. Thank you, Texter. And then we'll talk about Clemson's win on the road at North Carolina to wrap up this hour. John Blau will join us 1 hour from then to talk about the win yesterday and getting ready for BC this week for the Tigers. All that more coming up as we roll on. Because I am Rob Brown and he is Lonzo, and you are amazing. Thanks for being here. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I got to pull audio during the next couple of breaks. So do me a favor, stay right there. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere, please, and thank you. crib yesterday, get a win over the Miami Dolphins. It was in doubt for a good chunk of the game. And then a young man by the name Rico
That is not real.
Dowdle decided, nah, I got this. Just as the old expression goes, give me the damn ball. Rico Dowdle, 24 totes, 206 yards, and a touchdown for Carolina yesterday. Through the air, Bryce Young, 19 of 30, 198, a pair of touchdowns and a pick. Tet McMillan, 6 grabs, 73 yards. Xavier Legette had a couple of snags for 31 yards and a touchdown. Rico also had 3 grabs for 28 yards. Jimmy Horn Jr. saw his first action on the roster, 2 snags for 21. Now, I would like to start with what I thought was the best part of this entire game. I have to acknowledge that I did not start in love with Eric Collins, the Hornets radio announcer, who got his first opportunity to call an NFL game. Early in the game, I was like, dog, relax. Like, you're too excitable, even for me. And then by the end of the third quarter, I'm like, let this guy call every game. This guy might be new Gus Johnson. I pulled some of my favorite moments from that game.
And Dowdle, look at him! What kind of speed do you get, young man? To the end zone. Achan, did he? He did! Look at this! Dowdle, still on his feet! Caught back of the end zone. Xavier Legette. Tungo Bailoa. Got his man. Touchdown, Waller. Young. Caught. It's Horn. Bryce Young. Got his man. Touchdown. Third and 10. Down goes Tungo Bailoa.
All right, here's the thing.
Dowdle!
No. There's a competition going on between him and Pelagic. That's got to be what it is. They're in the same town. There are a lot of Will Pelagic-like things in those clips.
Listen, the energy was the same. We all know Willie P's got it locked down on, but that man had his voice crack in Dowdle. Willie P has his voice crack for a paragraph.
So you don't hear the similarities?
No, I don't, because Willie P goes up and it is Leo Messi. Take that, Messi. This guy hit a Dowdle on the sideline.
I think that's Will Pelagic with a mustache on, pretending to be somebody else.
Eric Collins is the play-by-play announcer for the Charlotte Hornets. And last week when we found out he was going to get his NFL debut calling the Panthers game, I was like, all right, because again, I listen to a lot of NBA play-by-play. Most NBA games are unavailable, even if you find access to alternative means of viewership outside of market.
No, they don't. There's no such thing like that.
I know
there.
it is a wee bit shocking, but this cat is electric on the call. And again, I do think there is some importance on being electric in the call when you were the play-by-play guy of a not very good team, because you've got to give people a reason to want to tune in, even if it's to hear you get geeked about a 3 that in the length of the season doesn't matter. But I was like, all right, this isn't calling it for Carolina. This is an NFL game. You've got to be down the middle on bias. And he was giving it for both teams. I started it like, dude, you're not Gus Johnson. Relax. And then as the game went on, I progressively found myself like, all right, I'm kind of feeling the juice now. I'm kind of feeling the vibe. James says Hornets fans already knew about Eric Collins' greatness. I got to tell you, he won me over because I do like a play-by-play guy who loves the game, who is energetic about the game, who is feeling the vibes of the game. And I thought it was a bit over the top at first, but the longer the game went on, the more I'm like, no, this guy, like, this is actually this guy. You can tell, I think, when a play-by-play guy trying to bring electricity is being inauthentic, disingenuous by it. Like, it's not real. I'm not really excited about this. I'm just trying to sound like I am. Versus Eric Collins, who was off his rocker yesterday, and he won me over the course of the game. All right, let's talk about the actual game itself for just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about Clemson's win over North Carolina in the next segment. Bryce Young, a turnover through the air, a turnover on the ground. Also had a fumble. Again, I would make the point that twofold about Bryce Young, as he is always going to be topic number one when you talk about the Panthers.
So I started watching this game a little bit late, had it on DVR, was watching, was like, oh no. And then the DVR froze and I could not get it to work. It's like, okay, I'm not going to get to watch this game. And then later on, my wife was yelled from the living room, I can't believe they just won this game. I'm like, who just won what game? And she said the Panthers. And I'm like, no. And then finally the DVR works like at around 5 p.m. and I was able to go back and watch the entire game. A couple bad series. And then after that, like I was saying earlier, they decided, you know what, we need to go away from Bryce. Let's just run the ball. And then that's all they did for a while. And then Bryce started playing better.
So the conversation about Bryce Young, in my opinion, goes twofold. Part of what Lonzo just brought up, and that is the fact that this is not a dude. And I would want to clarify that this is not a bad thing, because I think this is true about a vast majority of quarterbacks in the NFL. There are very few quarterbacks all time that you can say, even if there is no run game available, they can still go get it done in the air and win you a game. There's just not a lot of them. The list is well short, and most of the guys that are on that list, they're the Breezes and the Bradys of the world.
I was going to say, and the other ones who aren't, they are the run game. I mean, those are quarterbacks that can just take off and do the running themselves.
Sure, guys like Lamar. Like it's not an extensive list. Bryce Young is slippery, but he's not Lamar. He's a guy that can avoid sacks, but he's not going to turn almost sacks into 30-yard gains very often.
That the sack fumble was embarrassing. I was like, oh no, here we go. 2 weeks in a row like that. I mean, I know that's a big dude. It's just like hang on to the ball. Come on.
So the first part about that is the run game you brought up. The second thing I would point out, and I'm going to do this tomorrow because it's happened in the last 3 of the last 4 weeks, because it wasn't a problem in the Atlanta game, but it's been a problem in every other game. There were on at least 3 different plays that I remember. Bryce Young sacked 3 times for 19 yards lost in this game. And by the way, if this matters anything to you, Bryce Young finished this game with a QB rating of 90.7. It's his highest on the season. A QB rating, as opposed to a QBR, a QB rating only takes into consideration what the guy did when he had the opportunity to throw the ball. A QBR takes into consideration every play, including when you get sacked, when you get drenched, or whatever. That's why that's why he can have a QBR of 38, but a rating of 90. That's a huge difference. When Bryce Young has the opportunity to stand in a pocket and deliver a football, the QB rating is 90. When he's getting hassled and harassed, as he has too many times, it's a 38. So I noticed this last game against New England. There was a play where Bryce Young was in the pocket, takes the snap, and within 2 seconds, we have talked about quarterback time to release, time before pressure. Bryce Young has one of the lowest time to pressure ratings in the NFL. That's not on him. That's on the O-line. There was a play last week, and this had me paying attention to it against Miami yesterday, where Bryce Young took a lot of crap for sprinting out of the pocket and trying to, on the run, on a throw to the right, effectively underthrew a covered up tight end. And I went back and I watched that play on Instagram because, they'll post highlights up there. But I went back and I watched that play, and I'm like, you guys are missing something here. By the time that Bryce Young gets the snap, takes a 3-step drop and sets the back foot, he has nowhere to go. The right defensive end has set the edge. The left defensive end has set the edge. The defensive tackle has worked through a double team and in Bryce's face. There is nowhere for him to go. And he ends up, it was a play that. And I showed it to a friend of mine yesterday to say, am I crazy? There were like 8 of us watching football together yesterday. I said, am I crazy? That to me, even though it's an incomplete pass and people are hitting Bryce Young for this being a bad throw, is it crazy to me that this is actually a stellar play for this guy just to get the hell out of a pocket that didn't exist less than 2 seconds after he got the football? The answer is yes. The answer is unequivocally yes. And That happened quite a bit yesterday. This is why two things have to happen. Number one, you need more games like this out of Rico Dowdle. Chuba Hubbard unavailable to play. That's why Rico got the snaps, and he took advantage of it. And number two, you have got to shorten up the pass schematics for Bryce Young. Like, you're going to have a guy run the stretch. You're going to have a guy run the 9. Bring up Jimmy Horn when Jalen Coker comes back. Have him run the 9. That's all well and good. But what I saw yesterday was, in a lot of the passing attack, let's just keep it short and underneath and let them convert. And let's let the run game carry. That's why this team got the win yesterday. They didn't do it last week against New England. That's why they took the L. Now we'll see if they run it back the next time out. We'll talk more about this, but when we come back, let's talk about the Clemson win over Carolina. That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
North Carolina.
Well, Carolina means North Carolina, to the chagrin of my South Carolina fans.
Not to the listeners of this program.
I mean, that's fine.
So, I mean, I'm just.
But you can't
saying.
fault me for falling on a habit that is.
It's offensive.
It's not offensive. I mean, you can be offended by it.
With a big old O.
Stay right there, guys. Be right back. well, yeah, now I think widely accepted belief. Bad North Carolina football team. Clemson does exactly what they need to do. They go on the road. They take advantage of a bad North Carolina football team. They win 38-10. Cade Klubnik looked much more like the Cade Klubnik we expected in this game. 22 of 24, 254 yards, 4 touchdowns against the bad team. In fact, we got some Christopher Vazina late in the game, 6 of 11, 39 yards. 39 yards in that game. Not a lot going on in the run game for Clemson, and I will say that is if I had to be critical and say there is a disappointment for me. My disappointment would be that Clemson did not try to get the run game going. Now, in fairness, they ran the ball 31 times. They threw it 39. It's about the balance that we expected out of this offense with Cade Klubnik playing the style of football that we were all told Cade Klubnik was going to play, be a Heisman finalist. Again, against the bad North Carolina team on the road, that's what he looked like this weekend. So you got about the balance you expected, about 60-40, 65-35 to the pass game when you have guys catching the football. TJ Moore, 5 grabs, 108 yards and a touchdown. Adam Randall did have 4 grabs for 73 yards and a pair of tutties. Christian Ventcore had 2 grabs, 53, and scored on both of those receptions. I would have liked to see, especially late in the game, a little bit more of a focus on let's make sure that we are able to pound the rock. Because the fear that I have is that when you get a little bit deeper into the schedule, and again, I am talking about in 3 games when you have Florida State coming to the crib, probably not the dominant team that a lot of people thought they were through the first 3 weeks of the season. Still a pretty good football team. Not bad, not good, just pretty good. Again, Louisville, Miller Moss is getting to the point where he's getting 350 and 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. Louisville's going to want to air it out. How do you beat Miller Moss? Keep his ass on the bench. And then, of course, at South Carolina, which we'll find out if the game against Kentucky and the win at home was enough to put a little bit of a spark. Did they see enough out of the running of the Sellers that South Carolina's offense evolves? We'll see. Whatever way you want to look at it. The reason that SMU is a threat in 2 weeks, because Kevin Jennings looked like Kevin Jennings this weekend. The reason that if you think that, again, Duke unfortunately is not the team that I thought they were, I am leaning towards reality being Mike Elko's dudes left behind for Manny Diaz are the reason that the Duke Blue Devils were good last year, but they have lost 2 games. One was to number 11 Illinois, who did get hammered by Indiana, but they've turned around and won twice since then, are now climbing back into the upper echelon of the top 25. And they took the loss to a pretty good Tulane team. And we talked about that Tulane team. Like, that was a close game to a good, not Power 4 good, but as G5 teams go, towards the top of that list. It's not a bad Duke team. But why is Duke good? Duke is good because of Darian Mensah, because of their quarterback. Why is Florida State Florida State? It's because Thomas Castellanos, the transfer from Boston College, kind of started being a dude for that team. The point here is, and then, of course, South Carolina at the end of the year, Lenora Sellers. All of the teams that remain threats for the Clemson Tigers are all threats because of their quarterbacks, man. So how do you beat quarterbacks like that? You keep them on the bench. How do you keep them on the bench? Long possessions, run the football. Now, if Clemson's going to come out and have Cade Klubnik go 22 of 24 for 254 against better defenses than North Carolina, sure. Then at that point you go, okay, maybe Clemson is who we thought they were, and they just had a garbage start to the season. That's a possibility. But again, the Rob Brown philosophy is, what do you show me on tape? And right now I have a good Cade Klubnik game against a really bad North Carolina football team. So I'm not at the point where I'm ready to say, Now we see the Cade Klubnik that we expected. Now we see Heisman finalist Cade Klubnik. It just came, unfortunately, too late in the season. Now, if he goes on the road to Boston College and he goes 22 of 24 for 254 and 4 touchdowns, now there's 2 games on tape. We're feeling a little bit better, but they are against, again, 2 bad teams.
All right. It was very embarrassing about how bad North Carolina's defense was.
They're awful.
I mean, it was so ugly. To the point where I watched like the first quarter and a half. Is like, I can't watch any more of this because of how bad North Carolina was playing. I mean, I'm okay with watching. Clemson was taking what they were given and they looked good, but against that's got to be embarrassing for Belichick.
I bring up on this show because nuance and context matter. I think there are too many people in the upper echelon of sports broadcasting who shun nuance and context in the name of viral videos. And that's just not me. Nuance matters. So you know that I believe in the sliding scale of truth, where the extremes on both ends are the extremes on both ends, and the truth of whatever it is that we are talking about resides somewhere in the middle. So the sliding scale for truth in this game on one extreme is Clemson's back. And on the other side is the extreme of North Carolina is awful. It's just a bad football team. And we don't, I mean, we can later to get into the reasons why it's a bad football team.
Normally I would say it's somewhere in between, but I'm just leaning towards North Carolina being that bad.
So on the sliding scale of truth, with on one end, Clemson is back. And on the other end, UNC is bad. Where do we stick the needle? Right? That's the big thing in sports broadcasting. We're all about moving the needle. Where's the needle? Is the needle Clemson's back? Cade Klubnik finally hit his groove. The offense clicked. They're going to be good. Or is the needle, dude, this Belichick experience is exactly what I thought it was going to be. An absolute garbage decision to hire Bill Belichick. On the sliding scale of truth, I have pinned it somewhere about 35% Clemson's back, 65% North Carolina's hot garbage. Because, and I've evaluated this, North Carolina is hot garbage. It's a bad football team. There's no way to shake it up. I was very happy, although terrified, that Max Johnson was able to get back out there and start. You'll remember Max Johnson took that grotesque broken leg last year.
I mean, the whole time they're talking
they kept
about
showing the scar.
Yeah, and then they're talking about the leg, and I'm thinking, oh man, someone's gonna run into him.
Yeah,
so, and that's gonna be it. It was a fearful watch for me every time Max Johnson takes the field. I get it, I understand it. I am not anyone who has the power to say, hey, maybe don't play, but it was still brutal to watch. I mean, shout out to him for coming back from that gruesome injury and still wanting to play. But
yeah, me too. Because I got to tell you, I don't think I'd ever get out of a wheelchair. I just live in bed now. Just bring me everything I need. I'm never leaving the bed. Good for him for playing, whatever. Point is the team is bad. On the flip side, I do think there are some signs that are encouraging for Clemson. I think that the passing offense took advantage of an atrocious set of North Carolina defensive backs. An atrocious set who were playing atrocious football. Out of position, couldn't tackle, were just letting guys run free. But again, a good football team takes advantage of that. And Clemson took advantage of that. I thought that, again, I would have liked to have seen specifically late in the game an emphasis on let's lean on the run. Let's get the run game comfortable. Let's make sure that when we get down the road a bit and we've got Kevin Jennings, followed by Mensah, followed by Castellanos, followed by Moss, followed by Sellers. I mean, that's a pretty tough row of quarterbacks in that spot. Let's make sure our run game is ready, because to beat any or all of them, you will need to keep their asses on the sideline. You will need to win the game by running the ball and making sure that their offenses can't come out and score. I'm not saying you don't let Cade throw it. I'm just saying you've got to be able to run the ball, and it did not look like they had the ability to run the ball anywhere near well enough to make me believe that they will run the ball against Florida State. I think maybe against SMU to some degree, because they're not a great defensive line front seven team. They are carried as they were last year by Kevin Jennings and the offense being able to outscore most teams. But against a team like Florida State with a good defensive line, against a team like Louisville, not a great defensive line, but a team that they can score almost at will for, again, Miller Moss going for $350 a game the last few weeks. You've got to keep them on the sideline. I did not see anything in that game that leads me to believe that Clemson figured out the run. It seems to me like, and this is okay for that game, though I will need to see it changed and utilized. Like this game against Boston College becomes an opportunity. We've now seen Cade do it. And again, I think you let him throw it 25 to 30 times in this game, but I need those numbers to flip. I need 39 runs to 30 passes, 40 runs to 27 passes, not the other way around against BC. And even if it is uncomfortable against Boston College for longer than you'd like it to be, I think you need to get all the XP grinding the football as you can get, because it will become progressively more important as you head down the stretch. And while, again, the numbers were fine through the air, they were not on the ground against an overmatched Carolina defense. So this is why I say, on the sliding scale of truth, this was the best that we have seen Clemson look so far this season, obviously. It is not even close to the best that we have seen Cade Klubnik. It is not even close to the best that we have seen the wide receiver core. Like, everything worked through the air. Defensively, again, this North Carolina offense is atrocious. It's atrocious. Defensively, you were fine. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You held them to a field goal in the first three quarters. You let your backups let them get a late garbage time touchdown that didn't matter. It was fine defensively. Will that defense, and again, just like I've said with the offense, run the ball a bunch against, run it 40 times against Boston College and let your offensive line, let your running backs get comfortable. Get comfortable, because you will need it. On the flip side, defensively, I think you did what you needed to do against a good team. But now, on actually Monday, we go back to the word that was the word of the day, Pee Wee Herman style, last week on the show. Consistency. Can you come back against a bad Boston College team and do the same thing? Can you have Cade Klubnik go out there and complete 90% in his first half? Can you have him go 22 of 24 on the day, get to 254? This is a 1-4, 0-3 in conference Boston College team with losses to Michigan State, to Stanford, to Cal, and to Pitt. That's the bottom of the ACC. They have lost to everyone in the bottom of the ACC. Can you come out, take advantage of a game, even if, and this is the thing I would say to Clemson fans, you might look like you're a little lost early in this game. It might look like this is a more closely contested first half than it should be. That is fair and fine if Clemson runs the ball 15, 20% more than they throw the ball, as I think you should. Consistency. Can you take the things that went well, Klubnik, the wide receiver core, a defense doing what they needed to do, and carry that next week, while also recognizing the spots you came up short, predominantly in the run game, and working on those? This is an exhibition game for you. It's a practice game. Your second team should be able to beat Boston College. So run the ball, get the XP, and feel better. I'm happy with what happened. I'm going to say on the sliding scale of truth, about 35%, this is the Clemson we expected. About 65%, North Carolina's hot garbage. Spartanburg Jay texts the show. He said, Clemson is not back. Stop it. UNC is one of the worst Power 4 teams. I don't disagree. That's why it's 65-35. But it's an opportunity to build consistency this week against BC. We'll talk with John Blau in less than an hour about this when we come back. Audio Blitz. We'll talk some NFL ball. We'll get some baseball later in the show. All of that after Lonzo gives you an all-star sports flash.
There was a winner from North Carolina, and it was the Carolina Panthers, who got win number 2 with a 27-24 defeat of the Miami Dolphins. Former Gamecock Rico Dowdle showed out, carrying 23 times for 206 yards and a touchdown and 3 grabs for 28 yards. Bryce Young completed 19 of 30 passes for 198 yards and a pair of touchdowns with 1 pick and a fumble. Carolina is back home this week hosting Dallas on Sunday. The AP Top 25 is out with some dramatic changes. Ohio State remains number 1. Miami moves to number 2 ahead of Oregon. Ole Miss stays at 4 while Texas A&M cracks the top 5 for the first time. Oklahoma is number 6. Indiana moves up to 7 ahead of Alabama, Texas Tech, and Georgia. Another road course, another win for Shane Van Gisbergen, who claimed the checkered flag at Charlotte's Roval course yesterday. The win is his 5th consecutive on road or street courses. That's pretty good. The sinuses are just so messed up. There's just so much snot. Enjoy your biscuit, whoever you are. I was just telling the listeners who I just said snot, and then, that was gross. So then I said, enjoy your biscuit. It's like, yeah, it's like,
That's what I thought you said.
It's like telling people how the magic trick is done. I don't know why, Thank you, Stephen. We were fighting the whole time, but we were able to persevere and come through on the other side with the victory. Or whatever that was.
The Fan Upstate is your home for Philly Paladins football. Every play, every game.
Yeah, it's not the time for the joy. Just re-downloaded Fallout 76. Me and Cameron are probably going to play some today because the new expansion goes to Ohio. So first chance to see what post-apocalyptic Southern Ohio looks like. And they've also added Walter Goggins from the Fallout TV series. He's in the game, and he sends you out on bounties in Ohio.
Nice.
So,
and being in Ohio checks out. We're going to watch K-pop Demon Hunters tonight. Then the goal is to get as much of Peacemaker finished during the course of the week as we can. And Fallout has been on my list for a while now. I've just got to get to it.
I was a little short there, so I put down another 30. I haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters, but Chris has watched it with his kids, loved it, and it's one of Silver's favorite shows. So I'm waiting to watch it with her, which I haven't had a chance to do yet. So. All you needed to do is have played a little bit of Fallout to watch the series and enjoy it. But if you played a bunch, then you would see
I've been told, like, even if you don't know it well, like, you can still.
But I know
you
you've played some, so it will help you going. Oh, that's what that looks like in live action, that type of stuff.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Happy Monday, people. Actually Monday where we are both reacting to other people's overreactions and perhaps doing a bit of mild overreacting ourselves. You are welcome to do the same. 844-326-3663 is the number. 844-FANFONE. Call that number. It is also the number to the Hub City Spartanburger text line, 844-326-3663. Shoot us a text. We will read them on the radio program. We have jumped all over the map so far today, talked quite a bit of college ball back in hour number one, evaluated the AP Top 25. We'll get back to that a little bit later on in the program. This week felt like a settle-in week for college football. We are starting to see the teams that are actually good teams move up towards the top of the 25. We are starting to see some of the teams that are perhaps good but not great move to the middle. Some of the teams that were frauds out of the gate start to fall down towards the top. Penn State will continue to talk about that as the show rolls on. In the next segment, we will get a little NFL here on the broadcast. At the end of this hour, final segment of this hour, John Blau of the Post-Stand Courier, he covers the Clemson Tigers. We'll get his thoughts on what went right, what can be improved on for the Tigers as they get set for a road trip to Boston College coming up this weekend. But as it is 8 a.m. on a Monday, so good to me, it's time for the audio blitz. Some of the best audio we have picked up over the past 24 hours. I've got a handful, but there's a few that jump off the page at me. I played this one earlier in the show, but I would like to play it again for two reasons. Number one, because it fits exceptionally well in the audio blitz. And because number two, I got to give a shout out to Eric Collins. And I got to give a shout out to Aaron Collins. Some of you know Eric Collins because Eric Collins is the play-by-play announcer on the radio for the Charlotte Hornets. And over the past a lot of the time, Eric Collins has been most of the time the best part, sometimes the only good part of Hornets broadcast. Because while I do think the team is improving, they're not quite there yet. They're getting better. But they weren't a good team last year. So Eric Collins, the play-by-play voice for the Charlotte Hornets, got his opportunity to call his first NFL game this weekend, as he is a resident of Charlotte, North Carolina. They stuck him on the Hornets broadcast as they were at home hosting the Miami Dolphins. I started this game going, too much, bro. Like, even for me, even for a dude who gets yelled at for being too much. Extra is the word I've heard used, the adjective I've heard used to describe me many times.
It's an apt description.
I'm not even going to push back against it. It is absolutely an apt description of one Rob Brown. Even I was going, Eric, relax, my man. Like, you're not Gus Collins. But by the end of the third quarter, I was like, I think I'm an Eric Collins guy.
Gus Johnson.
Gus Johnson.
You say Gus Collins.
Oh, sorry. Gus Johnson, Eric Collins, Gus Johnson.
And Dowdle, look at him! What kind of speed do you get, young man? To the end zone. Achan, did he? He did! Look at this! Dowdle, still on his feet! Caught, back of the end zone! Xavier Leggett! Tungo Bailoa! Got his man! Touchdown, Waller! Young! Caught! It's Horn! Bryce Young! Got his man! Touchdown! Third and 10! Down goes Tonga.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
All right. That's the
Absolutely
second time I've heard it, and I loved it more the second time.
Yeah. It just gets better. Much like Collins in the broadcast. First quarter, I was like, hey, bro, settle down. Second quarter, I'm like, all right, this guy's gassed. I get it. I understand it. Third quarter, I was like, now I'm in. Like, I was watching that game. I did a football party yesterday. There was 7 or 8 of us watching football together. And I had that game and the Saints game. They were both up on the screen, but I have an app on my phone that lets me point the phone at a TV channel, and then it plays the audio on my phone. And I was alternating back and forth between the Saints and the Panthers. So I checked in a few times, and by the end of the third quarter, I was like, yeah, I'm just listening to this guy. Like, he won me over in one game. Absolute electricity. Like, I love when a play-by-play guy loves football. And even for an NBA guy, I think he very much did. All right. There was another play-by-play guy who had a moment last night. Bills, Patriots, Sunday night. I've been waiting all day for Sunday night. I'm waiting all day for Monday night today, but I was waiting all day for Sunday night. In the Bills game, there was a spot where Josh Allen rolled out to the right. Nobody was available. And like a quarterback should do in that spot, he just sails the ball into the first row of the stadium. Well, if you are sitting in the first row of the stadium and you catch a ball out of the air from Josh Allen, NFL guys are going to try to get you to give that ball back. Well, it was caught out of the air by a young guy in a jersey. And instead of waiting for security or an NFL staffer or a Bills staffer to approach him and say, hey, bud, we're going to need the ball back. Nah. This guy tucked that thing away, 5 points of contact, got out of the aisle to the stairs, and took off with the football, which led to an all-timer from Mike Tirico.
Josh turns. And catch there. He's gone. Milano's going to go. He's in row 10. He's in row 15. He might get a beer. Milano, where are you going, man? It's your moment. Milano, row 40, led by Allen. He's going to take it the distance. Maybe it wasn't his seat. Maybe he doesn't want to be on TV. He's gone.
Well done, Tirico. Well done. That's a great moment. Guy gets up. He's taking off the ball. One of his buddies in a Josh Allen jersey gets up, lead blocker up the aisle all the way to where you disappear into the bowels of the stadium. My dude was gone with that football. He's like, nope, I don't care what happens. And it ended up being a good decision because the Bills lost at home to the Pats. But my man said, I don't care what happens with this game. I don't care how it plays out. I don't care if we win, lose, tie. I caught a Josh Allen football. This thing's going home with me. Got up, took off, had the lead blocker. Tirico gave him the play-by-play call. It was fantastic. Hey, we talked about this one earlier in the show too. Turns out, of the predictions, projections, and prognostications that I made to start the season, I got a lot right. And I got one very, very wrong. Turns out Penn State are frauds. Now, I came into the year thinking, if there is a reason Penn State won't get it done, it is because Drew Aller historically does not perform in big games, which is why their game this weekend against unranked and winless UCLA did not draw my attention because, again, they are winless. And you may remember that not but a week ago, they moved on from their head coach, Deshaun Foster. They got an interim coach. Some other guys were let go. Some other guys were elevated. One of those guys was Jerry Neuheisel. Now, Jerry is the son of Rick Neuheisel, who, of course, spent some time with that school. Jerry was lined up as the offensive coordinator for the UCLA Bruins. And the Bruins put up 42 on Penn State. Took their first win of the season and handed Penn State back-to-back L's. Not just an L at the crib to the Oregon Ducks, but they went on the road and allowed UCLA to get win number one. Now, this game stood out for a few reasons. Number one, obviously, because of the fact that now everybody knows that Pennsylvania State University is a fraudulent football team. They got exposed by the Ducks, and then UCLA said, oh, so that's how you do it. And UCLA did it. Number two, the reason is because Jerry Neuheisel was elevated from position coach to offensive coordinator for this game. And in his first game ever calling plays, his offense put 42 on the board against Penn State. Now, I might look at that and say, I get it. Penn State went up. They didn't have any film to watch of what this offense was going to look like with Jerry Neuheisel as the coordinator. Didn't know what the play calling was going to look like. But any credit that I coulda, shoulda, woulda given to Penn State for Jerry Neuheisel was gone because Jerry Neuheisel said in the postgame press conference this.
But all things you learn from. Like, I hate to say this, but I had never practiced with the headset in terms of like the button to talk to the quarterback. So there's like multiple times during the game I'm calling the play, but the headset's flipped up because I'm used to being a position coach. And then all of a sudden I'm pressing the wrong part of the button trying to talk to him. Like it was a mess. Hopefully we'll get that cleaned up by next week. But just one of those days. It just all kind of fell into place.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. My dude said, I'm a position coach. I've never worn the headset. I've certainly never worn the headset and called plays into it throughout the course of the day on at least 3 occasions, including 1 4th down conversion. Jerry Neuheisel grabbed his little Waffle House menu, put it in front of his face to talk into the microphone, except for he forgot to flip the mic on the headset down in front of his face. So he was just calling the play to nobody. And then on at least 2 occasions that were evident on television, on at least 2 occasions, Jerry forgot to push the talk back button that actually transmits his voice into the helmet of his quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, which led to a situation where Nico was like hearing play call. All right, Nico, we're going to go with the split 42 XYZ banana 1497 spider C wide at 34-7 on 2. And like having to figure it out. And yet they hung 42 on Penn State.
All right, you're not being critical of him, are you? Because
no.
You and I both have made mistakes that we should not make. And
we quite literally play a game as 2 decade-long broadcasters about how often we forget to crack the mic open. I'm not being critical. However, I do think you have to be critical of James Franklin and the Lions for letting that team with that coordinator put 42 on the board.
I think, well, let's see what he does next week. Maybe it was a hidden gem. Maybe he was just waiting for his chance, and now he's shining. I mean, it could be
maybe
that.
so. Maybe UCLA goes on a tear. Maybe UCLA ends 8-4 and shock the world. I doubt it. I doubt it. Could be wrong, but I doubt it.
There's no way that the collective football world was wrong about Penn State.
Listen, not the collective, because there were many of you who said, "I'm not falling for this crap again, James." I, however, wasn't one of those people. I did fall for that crap again, James.
Oh, that's right. I pointed this out. I'm going to do it again. You picked them to win the Big Ten.
Sure did.
Yeah, you did.
Sure did. Thought it was their year. Thought they had fixed it. Thought they got it right. They didn't. I got one more clip for you here. All right. Let me be abundantly clear here. I don't really know anything about Theo Vaughn. I also know I'm a 40-year-old guy, and that's not the world for me.
He pops up on my feed a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't know what this says about my feet, but
he is a podcast bro. He's apparently a stand-up comedian who exploded in the podcast world. I don't know a lot about him, and I'm okay with that. It's not my style.
I think of him as the Matt Riddle of podcasting.
I think there's a lot of those, honestly. I think of Joe Rogan as the Matt Riddle of podcasters, but it's subjective. Everybody's got their own form of entertainment. Have at it. It's not for me, whatever. That being said, for the second time in as many years, Theo Vaughn was the guest celebrity picker on College Game Day. Now, I will start with this. I will start with he's a Vandy guy. They brought him down to Tuscaloosa. All right. I knew it was already going to be a relatively hostile crowd. Number 2, the way that Theo Vaughn does comedy via the podcast doesn't really translate well to when he's doing a panel show like College Game Day. All right, fine. I understand it's not necessarily his vibe. And number 3, like I said, I'm 40, so his comedy doesn't land with me. However, it was painful to watch. Like, painful to watch. He was trying to tell jokes via story, and you could tell that they didn't land with anybody, but Des and Pat were laughing hysterically like it was the greatest thing they've ever heard, just, I think, to try to ease the tension, because it just wasn't good. At one point, they asked him for his pick on Texas, Florida, and he immediately went into his breakdown of Vandy, Alabama. And when he got to the end, right before he made his pick, Pat had to be like, yeah, we're talking Florida, Texas. We're getting to Vandy. Like, he just wasn't there.
All right. So I didn't see it, but I want to defend a little bit. If you've watched that show forever and then you're on it, maybe there were some nerves.
No, it was just bad. It was bad. I've seen a lot of game
Was he
pickers.
sitting next to Saban? Because that would make me mess up.
It doesn't.
Sure.
Listen, when they say Texas, Florida, and you go into your Vandy, Alabama pick, which is the game we're here to talk about.
The crowd chanting really loud.
No, it was dead silent because he was not entertaining at all. Now, I will say this. I do think I can give him one reason why that might have happened. Because if you watch Game Day, you know that right before the guest picker goes up to the panel to sit down and be mic'd up and give their thoughts, they do a quick little spot out in the crowd, and they usually have one of the Game Day reporters out there interviewing. Well, and I do apologize. I forget the young lady's name who was reporting out there, but she had Theo, and they're like, they're having their talk, and he's like, oh, I'm so excited to be back, and this, that, and the other, and yada, yada, yada. That's cool. And then this happened.
About that later. Well, the guys are ready for your second round of picks, so go ahead, right up there.
Oh, I'm already gone?
You're already going. See you later.
See you again?
No, I hope not.
Let's go.
She said the guys are ready for you, so head them right over there. And he goes, oh, I'm already gone? And she goes, yeah. And he said, and I quote, will I ever see you again? And her response was, and I quote, with dramatic acting talent attached. Ooh, I hope not.
About that later. Well, the guys are ready for your second round of picks, so go ahead, right up there.
Oh, I'm already gone?
You're already going. See you later.
See you again?
No, I hope not.
Let's go.
Hey, you call your shot. I mean, you take a shot, you're going to be shot down some, even if it is on national TV. Go for it, dude.
Rob Brown used to be a single man. He used to be in his 20s. He used to be a pretty good looking guy back in the day. All right.
Didn't the mustache happen and we're all just like,
oh no, I'd say then it got to the point where I did not metabolize beer the way that I used to back in the day. But Rob Brown used to be an athlete, used to have a six pack, used to be a pretty handsome feller. And listen, I was never really a guy who approached ladies at the bar. Wasn't my style, wasn't my thing.
They came up to you because you're Rob Brown.
Yeah, I wish that was true too. That also didn't happen. Rob Brown didn't approach ladies at the bar, but every now and then, with the right combination of liquid courage in the form of a handful of shots of Jägermeister and the right amount of dudes in my circle going, bro, you got this. She's looking at you. She's giving the signs. Rob Brown, make a pass. Hey, go get it. It's a layup, Rob Brown. Every now and then with the right amount of Jägermeister in the system and the right amount of talking up from the bros, I might make the move. And I might go over and say, hi, I'm Rob Brown. I just wanted to say hello. I saw you over there. And I just wanted to come introduce myself. And I got to tell you, it didn't work way more than it worked.
So
you
never thought for a moment that you guys weren't just messing with you, trying to get
because not everybody is setting you up to fail. Sometimes you hype the boys up because the boys need the hype. I got the hype. I felt good about myself, and it didn't work more than it worked. It changed, young men out there, join a rock and roll band. It changed when I got into a band. But I can tell you that I do remember a few times that it definitely didn't work. And I can tell you that when you make the pass and it does not work, it can impact you mentally, all right? It can throw you off your game. I assume it's like being a quarterback and getting absolutely sack hammered on the very first play of the game. You might have come in with all the confidence in the world, but if you get your bleep rocked on the first snap, you're probably not going to carry the same confidence to the rest of the contest.
Yeah, but do you regret? You regret going for it?
Yeah, I think that there are people who are okay with rejection. I don't think there's anybody who likes it. And certainly nobody who likes it when it is 1,000% in front of not just a bar full of people. Like it's one thing when you make a pass at Juana's Pagoda's beach bar and you get told no, but you're off at the sidebar and you can walk away and maybe the boys saw it, but that's it and they'll give you a little help. It's another thing to straight up ask a very attractive lady on national television on the most watched college football show on planet Earth. Am I ever going? Not even, do you want to grab a drink? Can I buy you a cocktail? Would you like to go to dinner? No. Just straight up, will I ever see you again? And on national TV, she grabbed the mic and went, oh, I hope not. So my point here is, yeah, he was real bad on the panel, but my man also just got shot down by a howitzer on national television,
So
the most watched college football game day show on Saturdays.
So Juan Pagoda, you remember specifically who that was and what she looked like? And all
Juana's
that kind of
Pagoda
stuff?
is the name of the bar.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Juana's Pagoda is the name of the bar that Rob Brown very much frequented, both as a rock and roll icon, and it's just a regular dude who was out drinking on a Tuesday. And I can tell you from living that life.
I love the hand gestures when you call yourself an icon.
I can tell you by living that life that the difference in pulling a will I ever see you again when you're just a dude drinking on a Tuesday and a will I see you again when you're a guy that just came off the stage playing guitar in front of a packed house. A lot more I hope so's from the ladies after a concert than I hope so's on a random Tuesday night. A lot more I hope nots on a Tuesday, but nobody's there. This man just caught a fat L on a nationally ranking program. All I'm saying is I kind of get where maybe it went wrong for Theo Vaughn. Is all I'm saying.
Keegan has said that her name is Jess Sims.
Jess Sims. Shout out Jess Sims, because I think there's a lot of ladies in that spot who would have been like, I don't want to make this uncomfortable for our celebrity guest picker, and been like, we'll see, Theo Vaughn.
There might have been some that was like, oh, yeah, okay.
I will also say this. Entertainment is subjective. Like what you like. I am not here to judge it. If there's anything that compels you after that and some of the other stuff I've heard, if there's anything that compels you to go seek out Theo Vaughn content, yes, we just probably aren't going to see eye to eye on entertainment value. That's all I'm going to say. Good on Jeff Sims for absolutely laying the smack down on this cat on national TV.
That was bad, though.
Spectacular.
Really, yeah.
I loved it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, let's talk some NFL. The Panthers get the win. It was a bit of a shocking weekend across the National Football League. We'll talk about some of the more unexpected results, including the Patriots getting a road win over Buffalo. And then we'll talk to John Blau to wrap up this hour of the Post and Courier, get his thoughts on what went right and what went wrong for Clemson in their win over the North Carolina Tar Heels and what they need to roll into next week against BC. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Yeah, Keegan, I saw that. Apparently he was doing a stand-up, a couple of sets that were getting filmed for a Netflix special, and apparently it went so poorly that so many people left that either Netflix had to cancel it or they had to add another thing for another session to get the content they needed because people were just walking out on them. That's interesting. That's interesting. All right, stay right there. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. And yes, my endless and humble apologies to Jess Sims for pulling what I thought was an absolute iconic moment. BRB. I'm not going to say the NFL was full on drunk yesterday, but it definitely had a pretty solid buzz going throughout the course of the day. 49ers banged up, shorthanded, still beat the LA Rams 26-23 back on Thursday. That led into a weekend. Spencer Rattler got his first dub, 26-14 over the Giants yesterday, partially because Raheed Shaheed, 4 grabs, 114, and a touchdown. We mentioned and discussed and broke down earlier the 27-24 win for the Carolina Panthers over the Miami Dolphins because of Rico Dowdle, 23 totes, 206, and a tutty in that one. The Vikings 21-17 winners in London over the Cleveland Browns. I want to get to that one for just a brief second. Because in this game, there was a field goal that was no good. And it looked weird on TV. It looked really weird on TV. I could not figure out why it was that it looked so odd. And the more I went back and looked at it, the more I came to the realization that the field goal attempt very clearly hit a camera wire that was hanging out over the field. The Vikings had an opportunity to make a field goal, and they did win the game, so I guess it didn't matter all that much. But in the fourth quarter, Will Richard came out, a 51-yard field goal on the line that would have tied the game at the time at 17 apiece. The kick ended up being wide right. And as I watched it, I thought, I've seen a lot of field goal efforts that, you'll see them tail off. Sometimes you'll see them kind of knuckleball through the air. You'll see based on how the kicker hits the ball, you'll see some weird movement out of a football. Obviously, with the oval shape and the laces on it, there's always going to be some weird aerodynamics to the football. But this one had some weird movement to it. I went and I watched it a couple more times after it happened, rewinded that kick, because I thought something had to have happened here. I think it probably would have still been wide right, but you never know. Maybe it tails off back to the inside. This thing skyrocketed to the right. Well, it turns out that it hit the wire on the Skycam, clearly and evidently hit the wire on the Skycam upon a rewatch. And so it led me to the question, in that moment in which, had the referees blown the whistle and said, dead ball, the field goal kick hit the wire of the camera, and it would have been an automatic re-kick of the try. If we're going to have an NFL HQ that is responsible in New York City for watching these games, is responsible for buzzing the referees and saying, hey, this happened and you missed it. That's wrong. You got that call wrong. This call happened. Here's the technical thing that we need to change about the clock or the ruling or whatever. And they missed that. I mean, forget the referees that are standing under the goalpost. Specifically in this case, the one that is stage left, TV right, at whom the ball was on a direct flight. Who, to me, I don't know how you're not watching the football in that moment when your job is to determine, does it go over the upright or not? How are you not tracking the ball to look up and see if it goes over the upright or not? And see, it kind of hit the wire. It didn't kind of hit the wire. It hit the wire definitively. And even if that doesn't happen, how in the world do we not have somebody at NFL HQ that goes, hey guys, that hit the wire. That can't happen.
The wire's like the ceiling, right? It counts as a part of the stadium.
That's if the ball is interfered with, the referees are part of the field. If anything in the stadium, it's like when I can't remember who it was, but the punter hit the jumbotron in Dallas. You re-kick that. that is re-kicked. The stadium, the facility cannot interfere, in the play. The officials are part of the play. If you throw a ball and it hits the ref, that is an incomplete pass. But the facility is not part of the field of play. So if you throw a ball and it hits the sky cam or whatever, that is OB. Not the goalpost, that's part of the field, but the facility, the Jumbotron, anything that's hanging down, whatever, that would be an auto re-kick. So my question is, how do the folks in NFL HQ, how do they A, miss that, and B, not give Minnesota another opportunity at that? The Browns didn't do anything to block that kick. The facility did. That can't happen. Now, I've seen a lot of people that have laid on this is why we should not be playing NFL games abroad stuff. Listen, that's not going anywhere. The NFL wants international teams. This isn't a secret. They haven't tried to make it a secret. They want international teams. And part of the way that they do that is by using regular season NFL games to grow their fan bases overseas. You'll notice London, obviously, has gotten the most games of anyone. This is why I've said, London's getting a football team. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. London's getting a team. This is not going to change whether you think the facilities are good or bad or not. Players have been complaining about soccer pitches since we started playing there. But forget all that. This is nothing to do with international games or whatever. They're not going anywhere. And as they pick up more, those stadiums will begin to incorporate more traditional American football fields. They've got the ability and the resources. The problem is if HQ is going to be in charge of getting these things right and they miss something that painfully obvious, I kind of got a problem with that. I kind of have an issue with that. The Eagles take their first loss of the season. The Denver Broncos at one point were trailing 17-3. And then they reeled off 18 unanswered in the fourth quarter behind Bo Nix. I do have a question about this football team, the Philadelphia Eagles. And credit for Bo Nix and the Broncos for getting it done. Bo Nix, 24 of 39, 242 and a tutty. Jalen Hurts, 23 of 38, 282 scores. I do have a question. Saquon Barkley is on this football team last I checked. And I'm waiting. Okay, we have that confirmed. Saquon Barkley is still on this football team. At this point, I have to assume that something was wrong with Saquon Barkley because I have to ask the question. In what world do I have Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 38 times and Saquon Barkley running at 6? And it's not just Saquon. The Eagles as a team ran the ball 11 times. They threw it 38. I got to tell you, I got an issue with Nick Sirianni here. Because, and I was on the Infinity Sports Network on Sunday. And one of the picks that I gave was, give me the Eagles and the Broncos the under. Now, it still ended up cashing, and I feel pretty good about that. It was at like 41. They finished at 38. But it didn't cash for the reason I thought it was going to cash. I thought it was going to cash because I was going to say the Eagles offense, which has been described all year long as boring, and that is because, and again, subjective, but I've done the research, it is boring. The Eagles offense has been described as boring. But then we got word that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have both expressed disappointment in their utilization within the Eagles offense. Effectively, to the shock of nobody, wide receivers would very much like you to throw them the ball, please. And it's understandable why. Wide receivers are judged specifically, explicitly, uniquely, and only on their numbers. When it's contract time, they want to be able to walk into an owner's office with their agent and say, I went for 1,700 receiving yards, 22 touchdowns last year. You got to pay me, dog. And if they're not getting paid, it's probably because they don't have numbers. So the argument was Smith and Brown are very upset about their usage. And I said to Gallo on Saturday or on Sunday morning on Infinity Sports Network, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm not changing anything. I'm going, guys, I know you're upset and I know it's going to hurt you. And I know that we all have to have a discussion about this at some point, but we are 4-0 in the NFC. We are in the driver's seat for the 1 seed. We are in the driver's seat for a Super Bowl repeat. You're just going to have to deal with it until we have to change it, until someone stops us. Instead, he gave them what they wanted. They threw the ball 38 times, and what happened? They lost to the Broncos. Dude, listen, you've got to keep your players happy. But at the same time, you better make sure you got guys that are happy when they're on a 4-0 football team aiming for a Super Bowl repeat, more than, yeah, we lost, but I got 111 yards and a touchdown. I wish you the best, Philly, because what are you going to do? Do you go back to running it 38 times next week and upset them more? I don't know. Here's what I do know. John Blau of the Post and Courier joins us in the next segment to break down the Clemson win over North Carolina. That is next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes and dudettes, stay right there. We're going to get John Blau on the line. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you joining us now on the program, as he is kind enough and gracious enough to do every single Monday at 8:40 a.m. He covers the Clemson Tiger Athletic Department for the Post and Courier. John Blau joining us here on the show. And I imagine, John, interacting with the Clemson fans the last couple of days slightly more pleasant than the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, nobody's asking Dabo to be fired. So I think we're in a good place, I think.
It is a good spot. It was a get right game. It was an opportunity to go out there and kind of click. They did do that, John Blau, but I will start with the discussion we've had on the show this morning. On the sliding scale of truth, on which end, one extreme is Clemson looks like the Clemson we expected, and on the other end is North Carolina is a really bad football team that's going through it right now. Where do you think the truth lies on that scale? More towards that's Clemson and they are back and we're going to see this team do that the rest of the year, or they took advantage of a really bad football team?
Yeah, I would just put it like right dead center in the middle of that spectrum. I do think UNC offensive line, not very good. Defense altogether, not very good. There are some weaknesses there that Clemson definitely exploited. At the same time, I mean, you have to give Clemson credit. I mean, they scored 27 points against Troy because they didn't execute. They scored 28 points in a quarter against North Carolina because they executed. So, Dabo Swinney is somewhat to a lot correct when he says that it's just football stuff. We have to do football stuff better. We have to block better. We have to, obviously, Cade's got to find his receivers. Receivers have to catch the ball. They're very simple things. They did those simple things better. Cade seemed to get the ball out with some rhythm and some timing. Receivers caught the ball. Obviously, that, Antonio Williams double pass to TJ Moore really got some good juices flowing. And defensively, obviously, you had Tom Allen down the field. Felt like he brought some juice, and the defense played better. The defensive line, again, against a not very good offensive line, really dominated at the point of attack. So I'm not going to say Clemson's fully back. I think you want to see it a couple games in a row, and you want to see it against some better competition. But I think at the same time, you could say they're definitely way better than they were in terms of the team that we saw that just couldn't execute simple things.
Talk to me about Cade Klubnik, because obviously, I mean, guy was on fire, 22 of 24 through 4 touchdown passes in this game. It looked more like the Cade Klubnik that we have come to expect, or at least that Clemson fans expected coming into the season, again, against the North Carolina defense that is just abysmal. But, John Blau, as the old expression goes, sometimes you've just got to see one go in. For a guy that felt like he was entering the year with an abundance of confidence, and then it kind of felt like maybe it was wavering a little bit, do you think that lit the fuse on Cade Klubnik becoming the guy that Dabo Swinney told us that he could be before the season started?
Yeah, I think he made a lot of better decisions. I mean, I remember one Wesco catch and run where literally just dumping it kind of 8 yards, 10 yards up the field over the middle, and the guy finds an alley and goes for 30, 40 yards. And that's all you have to do as a quarterback. You don't have to make amazing, tight window throws all the time. You just got to find the guy that's open and let him make a play. And that's what Cade did. And Cade said it after the game, I didn't have to be Superman out there. I just had to, take what was there. And I think, I don't know if he would admit it, but I think in those first 3 or 4 games, he was pressing a little bit. I think he was trying to make too much happen at times. Obviously, go back to the 3rd and 1/4 one against Syracuse, where on the 3rd down, he pulls the ball. He should just handed it off to Adam Randall. It felt like he made better decisions in the run game as well. A few times, didn't run it a ton, but when it was there, he made good decisions there. So I think he's just back to kind of playing within himself, trusting his receivers making plays for him. And like you said, I think when you get a few that go in, those layups, you start to, just kind of see the game better, a little more comfortable, and you play better. So, great performance. I mean, obviously the 2 incompletions I think were almost picked off, but, at the end of the day, they weren't. So, pretty good day, obviously. A great day for Cade Klubnik.
John Blau of the Post and Courier joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. I'm glad you brought up the run game, John. It very much felt like Clemson kind of wanted to find its identity, find its ability to throw the football, get Cade Klubnik going. But I have leaned on, with the row of quarterbacks you've got coming up after Boston College. You've got Mensah, you've got Castellanos, you've got Sellers, you've got Miller Moss at Louisville. The ability to run the football, to control the game, to control time of possession, to keep quarterbacks on the bench becomes more impressive the further we go down the schedule. We did not see, I think, either the development of or the opportunity for the run game to kind of find its footing Do you think we will see that in Boston College, or is Clemson going to play with the identity of what we saw against North Carolina Saturday moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's just what was working, obviously, at UNC. And yeah, that defense, Dabo was talking about with the, double pass, how reactive they were in terms of, coming behind the line of scrimmage, really, getting upfield. They kind of took advantage of that, I think, in a few situations. And so I think this game just worked to their favor in terms of throwing it out. But yeah, no, I would think that at Boston College, and Dabo was talking about always a big, physical, strong football team. I think you're going to want to get that run game established a little bit more. Obviously, Adam Randall was still productive last game. It was just as a receiver. I mean, at 73 yards receiving, scored a bunch of touchdowns. So, I think that you still want to get that in a better place. You want to be able to, as Garrett Riley calls, run the dirt raid, establish that, which, again, I think hurt them in some of the earlier games against Syracuse and obviously Georgia Tech, just not, and LSU, obviously, the opener, just getting away from running the ball. So, yeah, no, I would think that we're not going to see this type of air it out every single week. I do think that as, Gideon Davidson continues to make some steps, and obviously Adam Randall continues to get comfortable in kind of the mesh point and its timing in terms of getting to the line, I think you'll continue to see that developed, because I think you need it, like you said, to keep some of those opposing offenses off the field.
I kind of feel the same way on the other side of the football. You brought up Tom Allen and that defense, John Blau. This is a North Carolina offense that just doesn't have it. Wide receivers that can't get separation, not much in the way of the run game. Ton of respect for Max Johnson for coming back from that leg injury he sustained last year, going through the surgery, going through the therapy and playing. But obviously he's not the best quarterback that this team will play all year. It kind of felt on the defensive side of the football the same way. Let's take advantage of what their weaknesses are. Let's play the game we need to play to prevent them from doing anything. 3 points through 3.5 quarters, kind of gave up a garbage touchdown late in this one. What was your takeaway on the defensive side of the football, knowing that the quality of quarterbacks is only going to increase after Boston College?
Yeah, I think the main emphasis for them was making sure that UNC did not run the ball. Damon June, their freshman running back, has had some big games to hold 10 to 5 for 16 yards, and obviously some of that is UNC got so far behind they had to pass the ball more. But again, at the point of attack in those situations where Clemson was defeating the run, I mean, for the most part, there were a couple instances where they got a couple of gashes on them, but they were pushing guys back. Again, I don't know how much of that is, again, UNC's offensive line, kind of where they're at. But to see that was probably one of the first games this year, honestly, where I can point to it and say, I saw Stephylon Green, I saw DeMonte Capehart, I saw TJ Parker even flash at times and get more into the backfield and create some havoc there. I think that was positive. Yeah, as far as the passing game, I don't think Max Johnson, I don't think those receivers are really going to stress Clemson that much. But it all starts in the trenches in terms of you being able to make sure teams aren't on schedule, put them in second and third downs and long, and then you can get a pass rush from a Will Heldt, a TJ Parker, and obviously, you help your corners in terms of what the receivers are doing is kind of simplified, because they're trying to pick up however many yards. So I think the way they defended the run, I think, is a step forward. We'll have to see, like you said, down the line against some of these better quarterbacks, how they fare.
The good news, John Blau, and we talked about this going into last week, is after the 1-3 start, the bye week came at a great time. If you're going to have Carolina and Boston College on the schedule, having them back-to-back, an opportunity to kind of reestablish the identity is a good move, or is a good opportunity for Clemson. So with that being said, what does that Boston College game look like this weekend? Is it kind of stick with fundamentals? Do we see Clemson come out and try to light the scoreboard on fire to up the energy around the franchise? What is this game going to look like on Saturday?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was kind of funny talking to Antonio Williams after the game. He was trying to say, "Hey guys, like, I can't pass the ball anymore. Like, that's never going to happen again." Like, trying to joke to tell teams that don't prepare for the double pass, because we're never doing it again. But at the end of the day, I think playing free and loose like they did, throwing that in the first play, 75-yard touchdown, I think really helped. And so whatever you can do to get the juices flowing in a positive direction, I think it's good. I don't know if if you see like a double pass. You see Kate Klubnik coming out of the backfield, or I don't know what they might try, but I think you try to, have fun and continue to just make plays and get this team playing confident. Because again, confidence was the thing that was sorely lacking in the first 4 weeks of the season. Got it back a little bit. So whatever you have to do, whether that's ground and pound, whether that's air it out, do whatever you have to do to kind of get these guys playing confident and free and loose. That'll be up to the coaching staff to decide what that looks like. But I think they should, obviously want to keep that going.
Yeah, without a doubt. What was the mentality, the attitude of the fellas? I mean, on one hand, like, I know there still has to be some disappointment about a team that entered the season with national championship aspirations to be in a spot where even their head coach comes out, one of the most optimistic people in football, and says, like, we can't win a title, but we can go out and still continue to write our story. But also that had to feel good from a bounce back perspective of, we knew that this was in us the whole time, and maybe it took us too long to get here. We're there. What was the attitude in the locker room, in the postgame presser from the actual football players after that win?
Yeah, I mean, TJ Moore, we talked to him about the locker room. He says, music was blaring before they even entered. And obviously Dabo Swinney says, when we win, we dance, and the fun's in the winning and all that. So, yeah, they were much, much, happier. Obviously, it did feel like a weight was kind of lifted from their shoulders or their chest, or whatever you want to say there. Or Dabo Swinney was probably one of the chipperest press conferences we've seen from him after a game. Obviously, just so much doom and gloom in those first 4 weeks. So, yeah, no, I think they were all, obviously just, I think, relieved, happy, some combination of that to finally have won a football game. Kate Klubnik was saying coming into the week that, we're not going anywhere. And he felt like, and he reiterated that after the game, that it kind of shows that we're not going anywhere. They're going to try to make the best of this as they can, the rest of the season. The best of it is in whatever way they can. Can't get those words out of my mouth. And so, yeah, it was obviously a much happier feeling, and we'll see if they can kind of maintain that. And I would think against Boston College, again, a team that got beat 48-7 by Pitt. I mean, this should be a game a week where you keep that going. And the confidence just continues to build from there.
John Blau covers the Clemson athletic department for the Post-Inquirer. Kind enough to give us a few minutes every single Monday at 8:40 a.m. John, my man, go enjoy the victory this week. We will talk to you next week after the BC game, partner.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rob.
You got it. John Blau of the Post-Inquirer. Make sure if you're a Clemson fan, you are following him on X at John Blau, B-L-A-U. B-L-A-U, just the one A. I'm dumb. John B-L-A-U on X. Now, follow Lonzo through the next 60 seconds of your life and enjoy this unadulterated sports bliss.
Not to be confused with Alexa Bliss, totally different thing. The Carolina Panthers got win number 2 with a 27-24 defeat of the Miami Dolphins. Former Gamecock Rico Dowdle showed out, carrying 23 times for 206 yards and a touchdown and 3 grabs for 28 yards. Bryce Young completed 19 of 30 passes for 198 yards and a pair of touchdowns after a rough start with a pick and a fumble. Carolina is back home this week, hosting Dallas on Sunday. The AP Top 25 is out with some dramatic changes. Ohio State remains number 1. Miami moves to 2 ahead of Oregon. Ole Miss stays at 4, while Texas A&M cracks the top 5 for the first time. Oklahoma is number 6. Indiana moves up to 7 ahead of Alabama, Texas Tech, and Georgia. Another road course, another win for Shane Van Gisbergen, who claimed the checkered flag at Charlotte's Roval course yesterday. The win is his 5th consecutive on-road or street courses. Roval. It's such a weird word. Roval.
What they're doing now at QC Kinetics is truly cutting-edge medicine. Hey, it's Charlie James. If you have joint pain from a sprained ankle to chronic arthritic pain, QC Kinetics is taking regenerative medicine to a whole new level. QC Kinetics has just added an all-new potent and powerful regenerative cell treatment option, next-level biologic injectable, packed with human growth factors and all-natural healing properties. And it's by far QC Kinetics' most robust option for lasting joint pain relief. So if you've been thinking about exploring this proven non-invasive approach to joint pain, pain, now's the time. And to make it super easy, they're now offering telemedicine consultations. So you can speak with a medical provider from your home or office. Do it now and start the conversation. Learn more about the latest
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Up Stage. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Be a part of the show, 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE.
Hi.
That's the number to call the show. That's the number to text the show on the Hub City Spartanburger text line. I had gone back and forth on whether or not to bring it up because it's not really like a sports story. It's kind of a sports adjacent story. This Mark Sanchez story is friggin' weird, dude. Like, it's just, I don't know what other word to describe it as other than
it's wild
weird.
how I knew what you were talking about before you even finished. Yeah, just because I just read some of the details. It's
weird.
Yeah, it is.
So there was if you missed it or maybe avoided it, which I get, news broke yesterday that former Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez had been stabbed in some sort of incident. If I recall correctly, I believe it was in Indianapolis. And so Mark Sanchez got stabbed, and everybody's like, yo, what the hell happened? But then we started getting more details about what the hell happened. Apparently, there was a 69-year-old man who was driving a truck and parked his truck in an alley while he was the initial story was it was like a DoorDash driver, like a Uber Eats driver, like a food delivery driver. But it turns out he was driving a grease truck. Basically, his job was to drive a truck to different restaurants and collect their used cooking oil for proper disposal. And apparently, the 69-year-old truck driver was approached by Mark Sanchez, who apparently was very drunk, and told the guy, you can't park here. The guy was like, yo, it's my job. Like, I have to park here. And then Sanchez attacked the guy, including, according to police reports, throwing him against a wall and then onto the ground, at which point the man pulled a knife and stabbed Mark Sanchez and sent him to the hospital in critical condition. He's been upgraded to stable, but has also been charged with battery resulting in bodily injury, unauthorized entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication, endangering the life of another, according to police affidavits.
Okay, so I've read a couple of reports. One said that the guy was trying to go to get security to come and say, this guy's being belligerent towards me, and that Sanchez actually got in his truck like he was trying to move his truck.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like the whole thing is weird, dude. Like, I don't really have a take on it other than I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's sad. It is a sad story.
Where did he go to college at?
Mark Sanchez was a USC guy, wasn't he? If I recall correctly.
I can't remember.
I believe he was a USC guy.
I was just wondering if there's a pattern that from where he.
I mean, not
yeah.
Not that I am aware of. Yeah, he was a USA guy, 05 to 08. I am unaware. That's not to say no, but I'm unaware of one. I will also say that as somebody who is known to occasionally imbibe, man, like if this is what booze does to you, it's okay to stop. It's not just okay to stop. You should. If this is what it turns you into, stop. Like it's sad because
he might end up in jail. So
I think he's going to end up in jail. And especially if this guy who the 69-year-old is not just in the hospital, but against my better judgment, because the internet is the internet. I just saw pictures of the guy in the hospital.
Yeah, I avoided that. I didn't want to see the pictures.
He is messed up, man. Like, he has got a slash from the corner of his lip to around his cheekbone that is deep. Like, you can see in there. He got messed up.
According to the story, it like hit his tongue.
Yeah.
It was in there. So like, it's like, yeah, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. It's, I got nothing. Like, and it's obviously very sad.
It pops up and you're like, who?
Yeah.
What was he doing where was he to get jumped? Talking about Sanchez. Cause immediately you think it's somebody else jumped him or something. You don't realize that he escalated the situation. And according to witnesses, that was self-defense. The dude stabbing him.
So as somebody who worked in TV news, I can tell you the reason that all went down. And by the way, there was this interesting other thing that happened. I mean, if this is interesting to you, somebody went on Reddit like 3 hours before this from an anonymous account. They were like, yo, I work for the PD. I think it was like I said, Indianapolis PD. Mark Sanchez just got charged, but he's in the hospital. He's been stabbed, but it was because he did something. And everybody's like, okay, rando on the internet, whatever you're talking about. And then that story broke. From the journalist perspective, when you get a story that big about a guy that has the name recognition of a Mark Sanchez, you're going to get the result before you get the details. And just the way that the news works is you've got to, you tell what you know, like you share what you know, and then you say updates to come. So when the news dropped, because the first thing everybody learned was Mark Sanchez got stabbed and went to the hospital, that wasn't like reporters trying to leave out the news. They would not have gotten what happened until they started getting police reports and witness statements from the whole thing. But when Mark Sanchez gets stabbed and go to the hospital, like that's what's going to be talked about. Like that's kind of how it works. So I don't know, man. It's a wild story. if you struggle with booze, if you struggle with alcohol, like, get the help you need. There is no shame in it. There is no problem with it. Like, get the help that you need to stop. This was a cat who his NFL career got devolved into, oh, that's butt fumble guy. Like, that's what it was. It wasn't really even an awful career. It just wasn't what they drafted him to be out of USC. And Mark Sanchez it felt like, kind of turned it around in the TV world.
Not a bad guy to help call a football game.
No, he had turned it around. Like, I thought he was actually pretty good on TV. I'll give it a buck. Like, better than Tom Brady calling games. I thought Sanchez was good on TV, but obviously and clearly there were deeper problems than that. So again, like, if you struggle, get help. It is okay. There is no shame to it. There is nothing wrong with recognizing that sometimes you need help to get through a fight. And if that's the spot you are in, go find the help you need to win that fight. I have people in my family who have struggled with alcoholism and addiction. And for some people, they don't get the help that they need, and it ends up putting them in a spot where it's too late. For a guy like Mark Sanchez, not only is it too late, but the guy threw away what was probably going to be a relatively long-lasting and lucrative television career, because nobody's hiring this guy after this, right? Like, it's one thing to do something that's kind of dumb. Like, you get a DUI or something, most people will give you, go pay your debt to society, get yourself right, get cleaned up, whatever, and you'll get a second chance. I don't think you can give a second chance to a guy who viciously assaulted and put a 69-year-old man in the hospital, right? Like, you can't do it. This is the reason I still very much call Conor McGregor a piece of crap. Like, you punched an old man in a bar. That's irredeemable to me. So it's a sad story. Like I said, before something like this happens, go get the help that you need to get to win that fight, because it is, for many people, not one that you can win on your own, and it is not easy. So, if you're in that spot, if it's a problem, I wish you the best. I hope that you get the help you need, and I hope you win that fight so that doesn't play out the way that it did for Mark Sanchez. Get the help you need. There is no shame in it. All right, let's get into some other stuff that went down over the course of the weekend. Major League Baseball's postseason underway. We had all 4 game 1s on Saturday. The AL game 2s were yesterday. Blue Jays rout the New York Yankees. And the problem that the New York Yankees have is their best just went at it. That Max Fried got absolutely rocked by this team. And most of the teams that rely on the long ball, and we are talking about the Yankees, and have not been talking about relying on the long ball for the Blue Jays. This game going the other way was very interesting, especially with Trey Savage, who is a cat that, and I love this dude's story. This dude started the year off at the lowest level of minor league baseball, lowest level in the organization, and worked his way all of the way up to the majors, including getting a start yesterday against a very good New York Yankees team. This cat, getting his first postseason start, went out and K'd 11 yesterday. K'd 11 yesterday. Aaron Judge got twice in this game. This story was fantastic. 5.1 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts on 78 pitches. And to be honest with you, maybe could have, actually not even maybe, he could have probably finished the 5th, but he did get credited with the win. On the flip side, pretty easy to win a game when your team hits 5 big dongs out of 15 hits on the day. Like, this Toronto team, I think you have to say at this point is scary. And oh, by the way, this is a team that, due to injuries and whatnot, had to leave a couple of their biggest names off of their ALDS roster, right? Like Scherzinger, not on this roster. They had to leave some of their big guys at home because of injuries and whatnot. And yet they still came out. Vladdy had 3 hits in this game. George Springer had a pair of games in this game. Varsho had 4 hits in this game. Clement had 3 hits in this game. Like, this team put on a show. And it creates a world where in a best of 5, to me, there is no path forward to the Yankees other than being able to go 2 for 2 back in New York and get this done, which I wish you the best. Your next matchup, Shane Bieber going to the bump to take on Carlos Rodon. And Rodon's a good pitcher. In fact, right now, if you want it, the Yankees money line is minus 150 as a favorite. I'm at a point now where I'm kind of thinking I might take a little scratch out on Toronto as an outright winner at plus money. I think it's like plus 130 in this game. Why? Because they're hitting the baseball against everybody. They hit the Yankees well in game 1. They hit the Yankees well in game 2. You go back to Yankee Stadium, and here's the part that's interesting. Toronto's got a bigger ballpark than New York. New York is historically known for allowing specifically lefties to go yad, like a lot. This is not, I don't think, the layup win in game 3 that a lot of the talking media believe it is. And again, I know a lot of the talking media is based off of the Northeast, especially in baseball, based off the Atlantic coast, especially up towards the New England area. And so the lean is, especially with the Yankees doing what they did to the Bo Sox to get here, the lean, I think, is, oh, they're still New York. Aaron Judge is still there. Look, they needed Aaron Judge last night. They needed him certainly in game 1, but they needed him badly last night. And dude has been striking out with guys in scoring position with some regularity in this postseason. Like, I'm not the guy that says your entire legacy is going to be predicated on what you do in the postseason, but obviously we'd be lying to say it has no impact, especially when you are the Capitan, when you are the guy. This is the spot that you are supposed to be in. This is the spot where you are supposed to step up and be the leader. And Aaron Judge wasn't that guy. Like, I don't see a path back to this. Even if the Yankees do go 2-0 with the crib to take it back to game 5 in New York, good luck. Good luck. And then on the other side, Mariners 3, Tigers 2. Seattle ties this series back up at a game apiece. My thought going into that game yesterday was, if you cannot win this game with Tarek Skubal on the bump, and listen, Seattle has been good against Tarek Skubal, who has been the best pitcher in Major League Baseball this year, despite the fact that he had a real slow finish. Skubal went and got the win in the wild card round against the Guardians, the hottest team entering the postseason. And again, there are 3 things in this order that are your metric to a team's postseason success. Number 1, the hottest team coming into the playoffs. Number 2, pitching wins in the playoffs. And number 3, if those 2 things are even, who puts the ball in play? Who sends the ball into a different county more often than they don't? If you can't win with Tarek Skubal, who is the best pitcher in baseball, if you can't win after you knocked off Cleveland, and again, they did climb game 1, so like, let's not say they can't win. But in a spot last night with the opportunity to go up 2-0 on the road, have the next 2 back home, and it's best of 5. You would have only needed to take 1 of the 2 at the crib. For Skubal to go out, give you 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, but you can't figure it out and get it done, that's just not good enough. Detroit had 3 hits last night. For a team that was rounding the bases against Cleveland, to suddenly disappear. And the part that I think has got to be most frustrating if you're a Detroit fan, you had Luis Castillo at 50 pitches through, I think, 2.5 or 3 innings. He's at north of half of his pitch count through 3 innings. You've got to think, when you get into the back half of that Seattle bullpen, and it's a good bullpen, but it's not Luis Castillo. If you can get a couple off of Castillo and you can run him early, you give yourselves a very good chance to win, especially if I'm getting 7 innings and 97 pitches out of Tarek Skubal. I should win that game. But the fact that they didn't is the reason that I am going with Seattle out of the American League to the World Series. Polanco went yard twice. That's what they needed. Rodriguez had a double. Cal Raleigh had a double. Like, they hit the ball well last night. I think they had 8 hits in that game. If you can have Tarek Skubal come to the bump, you can either chase him. And again, they didn't really chase him. It's not like Skubal had a bad night. Gave up 5 hits and 2 runs. Like, that's a solid stat line with 9 Ks through 7 innings. It's not great, but it should be good enough to win against the better teams in the AL, and Seattle is certainly one of them. If Detroit can't win in that spot, I don't see how they win the series. Like, they will need to sweep back home in Detroit if they want to win the best of 5, 3-1. If they allow this to come back, and this is by Seattle just taking one of the two, if they allow this game or this series to go back to Seattle, Detroit cannot move on. And for a team that for a very long time held the best record in Major League Baseball before they absolutely crashed out down the stretch, you want to talk about a disappointing end of the season. All right, we're obviously keep you up to date on this one as it plays out. NL Game 2s will take place today, 6:08 tonight. Blake Snell versus Jesus Luzardo as the Dodgers are on the road at the Phillies in NLDS Game number 1. Chicago on the road against their NL Central rivals, the Milwaukee Brewers. First pitch in that one at 9:08 p.m. tonight. Shoto Imanaga on the bump against Aaron Ashby for Milwaukee. The Dodgers, minus 135 favorites on the road at Philly. The Brew Crew, minus 125 favorites at the crib tonight. AL Game 2, or Game 3, pardon me, will be on Tuesday in 4:08 and 8:08 on the PM if you're setting your calendar now. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we got into the AP Top 25 back in hour number 1. Let's take a look up and down the teams that consist in or make up the AP Top 25. Man, I'm struggling. I don't know why. We're going to get it together. All right. We're going to grab an orange slice and a Gatorade. We're going to regroup, reevaluate. And when we come back, we're hammering the AP Top 25. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
My world.
All right, guys, live and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. The AP Top 25 has Ohio State still on top. They do drop some first place votes back to now number 2, Miami, who leapfrogs Oregon. They fall back to number 3. Ole Miss, Texas A&M move up a spot into number 4 and 5. Oklahoma, Indiana, both ahead of number 8, Alabama. Texas Tech now inside the top 9 with that 5-0 record, one spot ahead of 4 and 1, number 10, Georgia. Rounding out the top 15, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, Mizzou, and Michigan. Notre Dame has won 3 in a row. Climb up to number 16, up 5 spots. Same for 17, Illinois, 18, BYU, 19, Virginia, all up 5 spots. Vandy, after their loss on the road at Alabama, a lot of respect for the Doors. They fall just 4 spots down to number 20, one spot ahead of now 4 and 1 Arizona State, up 4 spots as well. Iowa State takes their first loss on the season. They are now 5 and 1. After they get beat by the Cincinnati Bearcats on the road. They fall 8 spots down to number 22, the biggest fall in the top 25. They are right ahead of now ranked at number 23, Memphis, were unranked last week. So was South Florida, 4 and 1 with a win over Florida, now at number 24. Florida State, after their second consecutive loss, both of them to teams that either were or are now top 25 teams. They lose to Virginia on Friday. They turn around, give Miami hell in the fourth quarter, but we're too far behind at that point. Florida State drops down to number 25. Out of the rankings, Penn State and Texas. Not just out of the rankings, but Penn State and Texas received fewer votes than Mississippi State and Washington in the top 25. And, this is an interesting conversation to have after the interesting conversation that we had last week when the commissioner of the Athletic Conference, a conference that has a multitude of top 25 teams, a conference that has wins over the ACC, wins over the Big Ten, a win over the SEC as well. This is a conference, the American Conference, that is very interesting. Navy is 3 and 0 in the conference. They are 5 and 0 overall. Memphis is 6 and 0. North Texas is 5 and 0. South Florida is 4 and 1, ranked in the top 25. Tulane 4 and 1, just outside the top 25 with an ACC win. This conference is interesting, and it's interesting because it looks like it is becoming increasingly more likely that they will be sending one of the the G5 representative to the college football playoffs at the end of the year. So, what stands out the most about this AP Top 25 poll? What jumps out? I will start with this. The interesting conversation I was alluding to there was the commissioner of the American Conference saying last week that we need to either do away with or we need to modernize preseason polls. And I agree with that. How do we modernize it? I genuinely do not know. Because when you are talking about college football teams that have the opportunity to, or I guess I should say, not even opportunity, that might not be the right word. When college football teams are in a spot where many of them do not round out their roster until the spring, and we don't have preseason games like we do in the NFL that we can take a gander at and say, all right, yeah, they were just playing this outgunned, outmanned opponent in a preseason game, but they did this, and here's what we saw. You have spring camp and fall camp, and that's it to make a decision. The commissioner of the American Conference said last week, the problem that you bump into is that these preseason polls are effectively media members gambling, right? Except instead of gambling money, they are gambling to some degree their reputation, I guess. Although at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter all that much. Now, I do think that there should be, and I don't even know what this looks like. This is just a spitball. There should be some level of accountability for AP votes, right? Like if you are just egregiously wrong, there should be a way that we rotate and roll off and on guys and gals annually. Like there should be a way or a reason that you're an AP poll voter, but it's for like 2 years, and then you're off for 2 years. And we should have a way to hold people accountable, like the young lady we talked about last week when Bama beat Georgia and they were right around each other in the poll. And she wrote an article that said, I'm still putting Georgia ahead of Alabama. Yeah, but why though? Like, it's one thing if a team goes from, if a team's unranked and then they turn around and they jump to 24 and the team that they beat was ranked number 5 and they fall down to like number 12. It's like, all right, your head-to-head is definitely important, but it is not the only thing that is important. We also have to consider resume, quality wins and losses outside of that one head-to-head incident. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it than just head-to-head. But in a situation like that, where they played head-to-head and the schedules are similar, the resumes and the results are similar. Bama also had one loss, but it was on the road against at the time, now top, whatever Florida State ended up being, 8 before they bottomed out there. The difference there was enough that was a silly decision. Whereas I pointed out that, Virginia beats Florida State, but they were 40th in the country. They jump up to 25, 24, wherever they were last week. Florida State was number 8 in the country. How do you rationalize getting Virginia behind Florida State when Virginia had a home win over Alabama and Virginia hadn't played anybody of note at that point? I don't think you can. There's the difference that you have to try to rationalize to make something happen, and I just don't think that they were capable of doing so, which made sense at the time. So, all of that being said, what is the biggest surprise in the top 25? And the reason that I asked that question is every year when we talk about these preseason polls, my suggestion, though it will never work because the people who make the decisions are the TV executive people, and they are always going to make a decision that benefits the TV executive people. But I have said college football should not release its first rankings until week 6. Because by week 6, everybody will have gotten most of their cupcakeage out of the way. By week 6, everybody will have played at least a couple of conference games. And even if they play bad conference opponents out of the gate, at least you have an idea via round robining, transitive property of football. At least you have some idea as to what teams really are. On top of that, teams like, say, Louisville, who I told you coming into the season, like, I think this team's going to be good. Maybe not great, but I think they're going to be good. And I think they'll be good because Jeff Brom understands how to pull the triggers on a pass-happy offense, and he went out and got a quarterback in Miller Moss. Well, here come the Louisville Cardinals. And yes, they lost the game over the weekend, but they lost to some degree, quality game over the weekend. And as a result of that, by the way, in which Miller Moss went for, 356 and a handful of tutties in that game. Like, it is a loss that, while tough, you lost to a top 25 team. You lost by a field goal. You lost in overtime. And Miller Moss went 329 in this game. 339 the week before that, 316 the week before that. Like, they clicked. Now's the time where I think you get an accurate representation of Louisville. Now's the time that you get an accurate representation of Texas A&M. Is Texas A&M one of the best 5 teams in the country? Here's the thing that I have to remind myself sometimes. The ranking is, to me, I have to tell myself, and some of you may disagree with this sentiment. I do not take the rankings as these are the best 25 teams in the country. I take the rankings as these are the best 25 performing teams, right? The rankings are, to me, a season-long and evolving power ranking that takes into consideration who you beat, how you beat them, when you beat them, where you beat them, the numbers you put up, the schedule that you have played, everything. And if 2 teams are close to each other and one of them beats the other heads up, sure, they get the edge. But this is about resume. This is about what you have done overall, top to bottom, left to right, up and down. And with that being said, I think Texas A&M has performed as one of the best 5 teams in the country. This is why week 6 is the week that I say I am fine with starting our poll now. Again, TV guys are going to make TV decisions. Number 4, Clemson versus number 6, LSU, is a hell of a lot sexier than LSU and Clemson play in week 1, and like maybe these teams are going to be really good. You stick a 4 and a 6 out there, and the casuals are going to go, oh, those are two good teams. They're in the top 10. They're in the top 6. They must be good. And it makes the TV matchup sexier. But this is why I say week 6 is the reason.
I don't know if I've ever watched a game because of rankings.
I mean, again, you're not a casual.
Okay.
Right?
I've never went up, oh, look, this is this and this. I've got to,
Right. You're not a casual. But say, hypothetically, my mom, who watches college football, she's not a fan, but she watches it. She likes to tune in because she knows it's big for the little brother and I. We love college football. We talk about it all the time when we're together, whatever. She pays attention to it. So if she is trying to decide on a Saturday night when there's no new Grey's Anatomy on what game she's going to watch, it is most likely if she sees 2 teams that have a number out next to their name, she's going to check in on that game before she tunes in to watch Maryland play, I don't know, whoever, right? Michigan State. So that's why the TV people do it. It's not for you and me, great one. It's for the majority of fans who are casual viewers of college football. So this is this AP poll, which I don't really have a problem with. Do I think that Texas Tech is a better football team than Georgia? Not really. But I will say Texas Tech has beat 2 consecutive power teams in Oregon State and Utah. Maybe not great teams, but they hammered them. And then they went on the road to a decent Houston team, and they hammered them. Georgia, on the other hand, has the loss to Alabama and then wins over the win over Tennessee was great. It was a 3-point win. You beat up on Kentucky, who's not a good football team, right? I think it's fair to have A&M 5. I think it's fair to have the Red Raiders 9. I think it's fine to move Alabama to number 8. In fact, I would even go so far as to say Alabama, Indiana, I'm fine with where they are because what Indiana did to the one good team they played, to me, outranks what Alabama did to the one good team they played. Well, 2 good teams they played, they lost to one. Indiana's only played one, beat them, but they dropped 70s on everybody else. Fine with that. This is why I think we should not have preseason rankings. This is why we should save our rankings until we get to week number 6, because college football began this weekend, in my opinion, to sort itself out. And I think that the AP poll shows that. All right, let's take a break. We'll wrap up the show next. Rob Alonso, you, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, we'll be right back. Stay right there for me, please. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Monday Night Football, Chiefs on the road in Jacksonville, the butthole of America, to take on Trevor Lawrence and his Jacksonville Jaguars tonight. The Jags, a surprise team unless you listen to Rob Brown when he told you, I think this team might be better this year. 3-1, the Chiefs 2-2 with opening week loss to the Chargers. They dropped week 2, a Super Bowl rematch to the Eagles. They did exactly what they needed to do on the road at New York and then look much better as they decimated a Ravens team that was not as beat up then as they are now, but also they beat them up quite a bit. This game's interesting, Lonzo. Your team is on the road favored by 3.5 points. So it is a just a touch over a field goal difference. The over-under in this game, an NFL average 45.5 points in this one. Your thoughts on this matchup this evening?
I am looking forward to finding out if they're going to play this week like they did last week, because last week was it was pretty good. You get a piece back on offense, but I heard earlier that piece might be not there in Xavier Worthy. I heard on the overnight show that Xavier Worthy's ankle was swollen up for some reason. Put some ice on that thing, get it ready for tonight. And I think just a week away from another return. So I think we're going to find out if you were right or not about Jacksonville. That's what I think. We're going to find out how Trevor Lawrence performs with the way Kansas City's defense played last week. If they play that way this week, we're going to find out if Trevor has taken a step or not.
I think that is fair. I would point out,
run the stinking ball, Chiefs. It's okay to run the ball.
I would point out that the Chiefs opened as a 2.5 point favorite. That money is now at 3.5. Now, for those of you who don't follow the gambling lines, this is the way it looks to me, and we will find out later on this afternoon and closer to the evening if this is prophetic or full of crap. Ordinarily, the lead up to a game, ordinarily, it is where the casual public money is. People who, they gamble on sports, but maybe it's not like a thing. The money you see come in the last 12 hours to kickoff, that is the people who live in Las Vegas and their job is gambling on sports. Like that's how they make their money, is by wagering on sports. This is why there are two lines that I pay attention to. The line when it opens and the line within the last couple of hours before kickoff. Because when the line opens, that is usually Vegas giving you their honest thoughts on the game. Obviously, they open as much as a week before the game is played, so there's a lot of time for a lot of variables to come into play. That 2.5 may or may not have included knowledge that Xavier Worthy would or would not be banged up, maybe banged up, is definitely going to miss it, and it's being kept under wraps, whatever. A lot of people get paid a lot of good money to have channels to discover that information before people like you and me have it available to us. So the line opened at 2.5, which tells me that the odds makers in Las Vegas actually think this is a close game. Again, Jacksonville getting 3 at the crib. That means they believe Kansas City is about 5 points better than the Jags right now. So take that for what it is worth. Then,
right, a ton of sources saying questionable.
Questionable is questionable. Then what happened is, as the line moved from 2.5 to 3.5, you had a bunch of casual bettors who looked and they went, oh, it's the Chiefs and the Jags. Like, obviously that's a beatdown. Let me grab this number while it is at 2.5. And if you are a Chiefs guy or a Chiefs bettor in this case, that is the play. Because it is more likely than not, I would have thought, with the knowledge that casual bettors almost always bet the line towards Kansas City, that line was going to grow. And now it has. Now it's moved from Kansas City minus 2.5 to 3.5. Meaning, if you bet this when it opened, Kansas City wins by a field goal, you win the bet. 24-21, 27-24, you win the bet. Now, if Kansas City wins 27-24, you lose the bet. That's what that 1 full point did. So the question mark for me is going to be does this line stay put, which means the Vegas bettors are pretty split? Does this line move towards Kansas City, meaning that the folks in Vegas who do this for a living are looking at this line and going, that's too low for the Chiefs after what they did to Baltimore last week? Or does it get pushed back in the last 12 hours to -3? Maybe the full point comes back to -2.5, which says that the folks out in Vegas genuinely believe that Jacksonville is a threat in this game. Right now, the majority of the money is in on the Chiefs. That's why it moved a point. But the majority of the money so far is casual money. The line that you will look at if this is interesting to you, not from a gambling perspective. I mean, it is from a gambling perspective. But I bring up gambling on this show not because you are all capable of doing it here, but because gambling lines give you a pretty good insight into what the folks that work behind the scenes believe is the most likely outcome. If we see this line shift back to Kansas City -3 or -2.5, that says there's a lot of bettors in Vegas, folks who have zero affiliation or sentimentality. They just bet based on what's going to win, believe that Jacksonville makes this a very close contest. And so then the question mark becomes when we look at how the bets came in, right? Because there are two numbers you look at: percentage of bets that are made and percentage of money that is bet. So if you have 100 bets that come in for $100 on Kansas City, and you have one bet that comes in for $1 million on Jacksonville, well, 99% of the bets are on Kansas City, but 99% of the money is on Jacksonville. That means the people with bigger bankrolls, the people with bigger bank accounts, the people who spend more money on gambling. And again, you will have this impacted by people like Drake, who shows up and he bets $1 million on a game. And he's very clearly not good at it, but he's got money to burn. That does impact that. But the majority of that money is people who, again, live out in Las Vegas. This is what they do for a living. They make a lot of money doing this kind of stuff. So again, this is an interesting game to me. Here's where it sits right now. 68% of the bets on the spread going to Kansas City. 83% of the money so far is also on the Chiefs. So that is a big sway. Here's one thing I would have also given you as a gambler as well. If I ever see 80+% of the money come in on one side, I run to the other side. If 83% of the money is coming in on Kansas City and that line has only moved 1 point, that tells me that there is something going on, that Vegas has set a trap on the general public. They believe that they can take casual bettors for a whole lot of money if they can get Jacksonville to be within a field goal at the end of this game. And I think they will. I actually think this is a tight game. I'll pick Kansas City to win, but I do think this is a tighter game than people are giving it credit for. I have one question, which is, can Jacksonville's wide receivers get their heads out of their collective rectums and play good football? And if the answer is yes, I think Duval can make it interesting. Keep it within a possession throughout the course of the game. But if I got Brian Thomas out here just dropping footballs, if I got wide receivers for Jacksonville, by the way, and I pointed this out last week, and I haven't gotten a chance to go back and watch as much as I'd like, but through the first 3 weeks of the season, Jacksonville wide receivers have dropped 4 touchdown passes. Not like close. I mean, unguarded, open in the end zone, just dropped 4 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence should be leading the NFL in touchdown passes. If they get that fixed, I absolutely think this is a one-possession game. If they don't, don't be shocked if Kansas City runs away with this thing tonight. I will take Kansas City to win. I'm not touching the cover. Not touching it, because I do think Jacksonville can keep this thing within a field goal and force a Kansas City walk-off at the end of the game.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
It's pretty much how Kansas City usually wins the game.
It's also fair.
Do they ever cover ever? I don't. In the last couple of years,
Occasionally.
Okay.
Usually in the playoffs, to be honest.
All right. The first thing is Xing is Quinshon Judkins.
I did see yesterday that Quinshon Judkins was he was trending last night And I believe it is because the first Browns running back with a 100-yard game in 2 or 3 seasons now. Like first Browns running back to get to 100 yards in 2 or 3 seasons. That's not good. If you're the Cleveland Browns, not good. We've all banged him up for the quarterback. Turns out the running back sucks too.
But good that they found one.
They found one.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe that changes the game, but we'll find out.
Maybe it does. All right, the next thing it's Xing is Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray Xing because the Arizona Cardinals were a comedy of errors yesterday. And I will say, great one, this feels like a shtick for the show. It is not. We do not have a new Call of Duty dropping, but we do have a new Battlefield that is going to be dropping soon. And for many of us, and I don't know that Kyler Murray is or is not on this wagon, I have dropped off of Call of Duty. I have abandoned Call of Duty. It got too Fortnite-y for me. It's leaned too much into the silly stuff instead of just being a good war game I've always liked to play. The new Battlefield is going back to its roots. It is going to be a classic online multiplayer and single-player campaign classic shoot-'em-up war game. Kyler Murray's on Video Game Watch. He's on Video Game Watch officially, and if you watched that game yesterday, a game in which it was hilarious, to be honest with you, in multiple spots. Kyler Murray was in the shotgun, looked over to the sideline, his center snapped the ball, hit him right in the damn face, and here's the worst part, and I don't know if Zoe caught this because he hasn't made a joke about it, and I expected he would have. The ball hit him in the head, and his head rocked back like he got hit by a brick. No, on a football?
I'm not making a joke out of it because a lot of people speculated he got a concussion, and it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I was looking at get a broken neck from it. I mean, that thing nailed him.
And for the record, it was a rocket of a snap to the face mask. It's just bad. That's just bad.
It's like when you accidentally hit your kid with a snowball.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's not really.
And you have to do that thing where you laugh but not out loud.
Yeah, it's not a height joke, but it is. All right, the next thing it's Xing is Dwayne Johnson.
I know why Dwayne is Xing. Dwayne is Xing because they put $55 to $60 million into the new Dwayne movie, and it is on pace to make 10% of that. It is on pace to make $5 to $6 million on opening weekend. It got circled by everything else that came out this weekend. Dwayne, this is what you get for taking yourself too seriously. If you would have just been The Rock, you would have been great forever. Well, but instead, I've got John Cena out here whooping your ass in the ring and in the ratings.
Well, they say it's Oscar worthy.
I've heard it's a great movie.
Okay. Just no one's going to see it. You know what everyone did go to see, apparently? Making $46 million was Taylor Swift's
correct
thing that you were like, why would anyone want to go see that? They did.
Whoa. What I said was, why would I want to go
see it? Yeah. That's what it was. Okay.
I understand the Swift.
I apologize for saying that.
No, it's okay. Wrong. It's okay. I got again, be entertained. Hell, if you want to go see Dwayne The Rock Johnson in a fat suit, but not a fat suit, like have at it. But I get the Swifties going out en masse. And by the way, I listened to the album over the weekend. And the takeaway I had was this. If you're a Taylor Swift fan, you'll love it. And if you're not, you won't. I like Taylor Swift, but I listened to this album and the wife and I were like 6 tracks deep. And I'm like, it's not for me. It's not that good. It's not that good.
So you're saying she's not good when she's happy?
No, quite the opposite. Okay. I'm saying that this one felt very, compared to what she's done in years gone by, where she was already accused that this felt super manufactured and it felt very simplistic in the way that the lyrics were put together. It's not what we came to expect, but the Swifties love it, and that's their prerogative.
All right, last one, Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniels, if he's not fired already, he will be today.
As soon as he started X, I'm like, okay, did he get fired? But it doesn't look like
the Dolphins fans are obviously up in arms and want him to be gone. I suspect that he will before the end of the day. If not today, definitely tomorrow. But I think Callahan, and Daboll are all out probably by the end of the week. Like all 3 of them will probably, maybe not Callahan because they finally got the win, but I'd be shocked.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game.
It'll be shocked. I'm shocked. Mike McDaniel, the postgame presser, was asked about being employed still, and he said, it can't continue to go on like this, and it's already gone on too long. Dolphins fans nationally agree. That's it for us. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, it's your own fault. Get a better taste in radio. Or come back tomorrow and we'll try again. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on the radio. We'll see you tomorrow back here on the Fan Upstate. Later.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I have not gotten to it
James,
yet. James,
as I said last week, it is amazing.
Yep.
What he's able to do.
Yep.
Those last couple episodes, so the range, he's gotten so much better.
I have not made it to that yet, but from what I have heard from Lonzo and many others is that Cena kicks ass in it. Because we had a conversation either early last week or the week before that, like Cena, we were talking about who's the best wrestler or the best wrestler turned actor. And the argument up until last week was Batista, because he's done a range, and Cena's always like, Cena's great, but it's always been kind of like comedic or punch a lot of dudes roles. And then a lot of people had their opinion change based on Peacemaker, which I think is great. Okay, that's it for us. We got a jet. I got a jet. Thanks for being here. You're all amazing people. Tell your friends about us. We would like to retire sooner rather than later. Come back tomorrow. We will do the X's and O's of football. Adios.